When I first heard the name EFAP, I thought it stood for electronic fapping. Then I learned that EFAP is just an acronym that stands for every frame of pause. And even with that context, it still sounds like a jerk-off session. For the time being, EFAP will be stuck in 360p. It's nothing personal, blame the shitty online YouTube converters. They're the real villains of the story. Now, I know it may come across as incendiary to slowly pan around an assassination of the EFAP hosts, might have caused a Jack Kentner post on r/Mueller for that one alone, but remember that this stuff is all in good fun. Those models aren't real, they're downloaded off the internet and stuffed into Unreal Engine. I'm not even real, and yet you're still hearing this voice in your head. Have you gone crazy yet? In the unlikely event that you're still with us, you'll be taken on a journey, sharing my painful and torturous experience, watching a skull with wheels, a green plague doctor, and a puppy dog with sunglasses slander my masterpiece of a film. You'll be in for a real treat. So without further rambling, let's give the people what they came here for. Maximum effort.
This film actually takes on immediately after Deadpool 2 and says that he uses the device to travel to the sacred timeline, 616, the MCU as it's referred to these days.
The sacred timeline. I hate that.
There's so much to discuss here for a decision to be made, but I guess before we can go further, it's like, so why? And it's like, well, to be clear, the reason is he wants to join the Avengers.
Now aren't there... You go ahead, Frankie.
Well, so the first thought is, what? You just made X-Force.
The Avengers is a much bigger organization and is renowned for saving the world many times. If Deadpool is struggling with self-doubt and doesn't think he's good enough, especially in comparison to what others have done, then obviously he's going to aim for higher goals.
Like, that was like the point of your movie, was that you found a family in X-Force.
So because he found family in the X-Force, he can't work with the Avengers as a means of achieving more for people? How does that contradict anything? I guess because Peter Parker considers Aunt May his family, he shouldn't ever join the Avengers. I guess because Hawkeye had a family of his own, he shouldn't ever join the Avengers. I guess Tony Stark should have ignored the Avengers in Endgame because he finally had a kid with Pepper.
They had a team. They were a cool team, too.
The first thing that you did was that you wanted to go to specifically the Marvel Universe to become an Avenger? What?
Yes, because Wade doesn't think he's done enough to matter. Sure, he'll fight for his girlfriend, his family, or an innocent kid who was hunted down by an assassin, but those are all relatively small scale compared to bigger aims he can strive for, like being part of a team that saves the world regularly, like the Avengers.
His girlfriend, Vanessa, feels he needs to do more, he needs to act more, he needs to matter. It's a very odd conversation that we see, and parts of it we're to believe not even real, because they're being messed with by someone else, but the broad thing seems to be that he believes, as is stated in the scene with Happy Hogan, that he's concerned he's going to lose his girl if he doesn't do something that matters.
Well, that's a problem.
Strange, considering the many things he's done so far that have mattered considerably.
Self-doubt isn't inherently logical, and Deadpool generally acts on impulse and emotion rather than pure logic. This is a really strange way to read his character, when the clear point they're making is that Deadpool is insecure about if he has accomplished enough in his life. From his perspective, he needs to leave a bigger impact in the grand scheme of things to truly matter. Because of his growth in the second movie, he feels Vanessa will start to hold him to a higher standard. You can take everything he says at face value and pick it apart all you want, but the fact of the matter is that self-doubt can distract people from acknowledging their own strengths. Any character flaw in general is capable of making someone say or believe something illogical. Let's take an example from a movie that I think is pretty good, and that I'm pretty sure you guys think is pretty good.
If we can't accept limitations, we're boundaryless, we're no better than the bad guys.
Okay, Tony, so you're saying that because Cap doesn't accept limitations, he's just as bad as someone who tried to steal your company and murder you, someone who tried to take over the world with an alien army, someone who tried to kill millions of people for world domination, and someone who tried to destroy humanity and replace it with robots? Cap is no better if he disagrees with you. You see how I can just take everything Tony says at face value to make his character sound bad and completely neglect what he actually means by what he says? That's exactly what's being done with Deadpool, taking it as Deadpool literally doesn't think a single thing he did was worthwhile, when he's obviously talking about how much he matters in the grand scheme of things, outside his circle of friends and family.
Yes.
In the first
I don't know,
movie
it
and in
seems
the
like
second movie.
he was in the habit of doing really important things.
Yeah, he saves her life in the first movie.
And remember,
And then he
that was
goes back in time to save her
That was-
life again.
That was the point of that movie. Remember, it was the line he said, the right girl will bring out the hero in you. That was the arc.
And from there, Deadpool reflects on if the hero in him truly matters. If anything, you just supported the point the film was making. If Deadpool has heroic qualities, then it's understandable for him to conclude that he isn't doing enough when he compares himself to others who have done more, like the Avengers. That only supports why Deadpool would feel the need to set higher goals for himself. He discovers his more heroic side, so he wants to join a team of heroes that have done plenty of good for the world. That's a logical progression of events. Isn't this similar to another movie that you think is good?
Feel like I could be doing more. I'm just curious when the next real mission's gonna be. Please, this is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
Wait, Spider-Man just said he's nothing without the suit despite the fact he spent 6 months saving people's lives even before meeting Tony Stark. So is that a problem now too?
As she says, your crazy matches my crazy. It's supposed to be like they're both kind of chaotic and insane, and they are perfect for each other.
Someone out there for everybody.
Yes.
But unfortunately, as the films progress, she gets progressively less screen time, to the point that in this film she is barely in it.
Barely in it. And she's essentially
she's not a
entirely
character in this
different
one,
person.
unfortunately.
Yeah, which is a big problem when she is. I mean, even though she wasn't in the second movie for very long either, she was meant to be like kind of the core driving motivator for Deadpool in both films.
She's referenced constantly.
We literally have this with this movie. Deadpool constantly brings up how much he wants to save his family. When Cassandra Nova goes inside Deadpool's head, Vanessa is seen and we see the conversation where they start to split up. And Deadpool thinks about Vanessa when he's making his final sacrifice. He even says to her later he did it for her.
We're supposed to believe that, yes, he literally changed the course of time to save her and his people for X-Force, which is confirmed with Shatterstar is still alive, so not just Peter. And, all these efforts made, and of course what happened with Russell and everything else, Cable to the point of sacrificing his ability to be with his family to save Deadpool. These are all events that took place.
Oh, Cable, I can't wait to see him. He was really cool in
Deadpool
Deadpool 2.
It'd be neat to see him, yeah.
He had a neat power set. He had a great actor. I'm really curious what he's going to do. Because I remember at the end of Deadpool 2, he said that he is going to work to make sure that the world doesn't become a bad place in the future. Yeah, part of X-Force.
And man, Colossus, he's such a wholesome lad. Can't wait to see
his
him.
Really awesome to see Colossus back as well, yes.
Really, really like Colossus.
So I can understand this criticism, and depending on what the plan is for Deadpool, I may agree with some of it. It's not just Cable that's worth mentioning, but also Russell and Domino, since their whereabouts aren't mentioned in spite of their absence. If you want to continue Deadpool's story and follow up with his newfound family, I think their whereabouts are at the very least worth an acknowledgement if they're not going to show up on screen. However, while this is the third Deadpool movie, it's not intended to be Deadpool 3. The focus of the film was on Deadpool and Wolverine's adventure, and Deadpool's world is at stake. So rather than serving as Deadpool 3, a direct sequel to Deadpool 2, it serves as a side adventure that involves our main character. In concept, it's similar to what we'd expect from Marvel team-up issues, while Spider-Man has plenty of important side characters like Aunt May, Harry Osborn, Gwen Stacy, MJ, and more. They often get sidestepped in Marvel team-up stories to focus on the adventure the teaming heroes go on, and I believe that was the same intention for Deadpool and Wolverine. So while I do agree that some of the characters should have had more involvement or at the very least acknowledgement, I can also understand this decision if the plan is to further expand upon that in a more Deadpool-centric sequel. So considering the role this film is meant to play, I don't find this heavily detrimental to the story. However, I think, at minimum, we should have had an update on Cable, Domino, and Russell. If we at least had them acknowledged, I'd be perfectly fine with them being sidelined in the story.
She doesn't behave in even the most basic way, the way that Vanessa does in Deadpool 1 or 2, and she doesn't have the values of Vanessa. She's unironically very close to a cardboard cutout. Like, she doesn't
Yeah.
do anything that's... If they have one scene where they get to interact near the beginning and one at the end, and both of them come across like they've never met each other before.
Yeah, where's the chemistry? Where's the goofing around?
So first of all, they immediately talk to each other like they have met each other before, because the first thing Wade says is, "Thanks for coming," and she says, "Yeah," as in, of course she'd show up. Then he asks how work has been, which implies he knows what she does for a living. But maybe I'm taking them too literally. Maybe what they meant was that their chemistry has been reduced, and the way they normally bounce off each other just isn't present in this movie. And yeah, that's because they literally broke up as this movie shows you, so of course their chemistry isn't going to be the same as it was before.
All we're told so far is that she's considering breaking up with him unless he fucking joins a hero team like the Avengers.
That's not what she said at all. I have no clue where you got that from.
There's sheer problems with this. It's...
What?
If there's anything the MCU has taught me, it's that you can only be a hero if you're a part of the Avengers.
What are you talking about?
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
Team, he's
He
X-Force.
created one that
He
is
created
still
it.
alive. Like, what?
It's
Well,
his team.
they're not cool enough, you see, I guess.
And then, of course, the question is, if he really, for whatever reason, doesn't want to do X-Force, why would his next port of call not be the X-Men?
Because the X-Men rejected him. They literally say it in the film. They have standards for who they bring onto their team. Deadpool was brought on as a trainee in Deadpool 2, and he failed on his first day. Colossus even implies he could get in trouble if he works with Wade at the end, hence why he's hesitant.
Do you know what would happen to me if I helped you? I would be disgraced. You are a criminal, a fugitive.
Of which he was a trainee for a day.
Yeah, for a day. And immediately afterwards, he got himself into trouble when he literally murdered people out in public when he had no proof that they were abusers, which would heavily harm human and mutant relations, especially due to his association with the X-Men. He failed as a trainee on his first day and made himself a wanted criminal, and even afterwards, he was involved in a chase where lots of collateral damage was caused. Deadpool's history is why he's considered a wild card. Why do you think the X-Men would bring him on the team? Don't you get that if the X-Men rejected Deadpool, that only adds credence to his decision to try joining the Avengers? Team 1 failed, let's try joining Team 2. That seems very easy to follow.
Some people are like, that's not what she said. She left him once he didn't come back from it. It's how Wade interpreted it. It's like it's so go. You have to go scene by scene, folks. All right, you have to wait. But in this scene, he says that to Happy, that he's worried about losing his girl unless he matters, and he can't think of any better way to do it than joining the Avengers.
How does that disprove what the person in chat said? The chatter's point is about how Wade interpreted what Vanessa feels, not what she actually feels. You can't use what Wade thinks as a counterpoint.
The
that's what he
misinterpretation of what she says and her reaction to what he reacts to with the rejection, we get in there. It's going to be piece by piece, alright? You're going to give it time. But believe me, I've gone over this film in autistic detail. I know all the lines. I know how the story goes. It's why I don't like it.
So you went in the movie in so much detail that you know all the lines and story beats.
You might want to check again.
Why in the world would he try to join the Avengers, and then why in the world would he travel to a different dimension to join the Avengers?
To leave a more meaningful impact as a hero. And yes, this can extend to different dimensions because those still consist of people worth saving.
Yeah, because
What's wrong with the
universe.
Avengers in his universe? And also, there's an
well, the
infinite
thing is
amount
that
of Avengers to choose from. So
if there's no Avengers in his universe, which there isn't, you know, like we know that there isn't one in the Fox X-Men universe, why wouldn't he just try another one?
You do realize that Wade was just told that he was aiming too high by Happy Hogan, the guy who the Avengers entrusted to evaluate potential candidates? Happy literally says to aim for the middle and he'll never miss. Happy also says that he's not the world-saving type, and he's satisfied with that. So when Happy gives Wade advice on how to overcome his insecurities as opposed to dealing with another rejection that will only worsen his self-esteem, why is it unreasonable that Wade listens to him? He's not even against Happy's advice in the scene. He's receptive to what he's saying and respects what he had to offer. He thinks this could bring him happiness like it did for Happy.
I mean,
Yeah.
Are we seriously implying that there's only like one Avenger? From his view, this universe is no more important than any other universe because it ain't, or at least it ought not be. That was because the TVA arbitrarily decided that it mattered more than all the other ones. But like, he could just keep going to different ones. But I mean, why would he even do that? It's like, okay, oh, I'm off to work in a different universe. See ya. Like, surely he would want to remain in his own universe with his friends.
He has an
if Wade has the watch, he can come back. That's like asking why someone goes to college in a state where their family isn't living. Obviously, they'll come back to their family at some point.
And
well, I mean, can we deal with something that I don't think anybody even wants to bother with, which is, Vanessa, I've gone to a different universe, dimension, timeline, whatever, to join the Avengers. The Avengers is, and then she cuts him off and says, I'm sorry, you went to a different universe? And he's like, oh, yeah?
Oh yeah, there's different universes, yeah.
Well, not only are there different universes, I have a device that can take me in and out whenever I want, and it's like, oh, you could probably solve all of the things. This is incredible technology. Like, this changes literally everything about everything ever.
So, what problems can he solve? World hunger? Mutant bigotry? Cancer? The amazing Lucas's hairline? Give an example of a problem that shouldn't exist because of this. All you've stated is that he can go from one universe to another, which is not compelling. Does being able to go to different planets break the universe because you can solve anything and everything, all because you can go different places? Man, Doctor Strange's sling rings are said to be able to traverse the multiverse. Guess that means cancer shouldn't exist anymore. Doctor Strange is assassinated. Well, he is, but not in this movie or for this reason.
If this was another Deadpool movie, they would have a big conversation between the two about the potential of his power and what he could be using it for, and she would be his moral center, core, backbone, to get him to do those things if he didn't already.
You mean like what she does in the movie, where she talks to Wade about caring for something bigger than himself when he feels so defeated that he stops being Deadpool?
Show me you care about something bigger than you.
I think the MCU is so fucked at this point that people just casually flipping universes is like, yeah, of course, that's normal.
You mean to tell me that the Guardians of the Galaxy can just casually go from planet to planet? Wow, that's crazy. What a horrible trilogy.
Would anyone really even question any of that? It's like, yeah, I guess not. Or something. And then he destroys it after the rejection as well, which makes me think about all of the things that could have been done with that device, including but not limited to allowing Cable to go back to his family.
He destroyed it off screen, so you don't even know the circumstances behind that event. I mean, you yourself said that Deadpool can solve any issue with the technology, which means he could have brought Cable another one of those devices from the future so he could go back to his family at any point he wanted, while also allowing Deadpool to keep his device. And you don't even know that it was solely Deadpool's decision. They literally imply at the end of Deadpool 2 that Cable's gonna be pissed off if he finds out. Upon reuniting with Cable, Cable himself could have insisted that Deadpool destroys the device after everything he did because of how risky it can be to continuously mess with time, which he never had the chance to discuss yet because he didn't expect Deadpool to use this device behind his back.
Happy rejects him outright, and I don't know exactly how much information he knows, but Happy is rejecting a man who's essentially immortal, right? Hyper healing, really strong agility, strength, and he can travel the multiverse.
Well, I mean, Deadpool, when we find out what the cringe Avengers team is going to be, it'll be that Deadpool is far more powerful than the majority of the people on that team.
Yes. So it just feels really odd that Happy is not more concerned about someone like Deadpool, and his advice is, why don't you aim for the middle and we'll keep an eye on you? Both statements ridiculous.
How is that bad advice? Wade is clearly not ready to be an Avenger. His motivation isn't in the right place, and they need more time to evaluate him. You can't just bring a guy onto the Avengers because he said he needs it and has superpowers. Even Mysterio understands this. He knows not to act as if he does what he does because he needs it, even though that's actually the case for him. Rather, he acts as if he does what he does because the people need him. And another thing, they didn't let Spider-Man onto the Avengers either, in spite of how powerful he is and how useful he can be. He has to earn it because the Avengers have standards for who they allow onto the team. Black Widow and Hawkeye don't have powers, yet Hawkeye is the one who gave the great speech to Wanda about what it means to be an Avenger.
First of all, what are you gonna if you think his problem, Deadpool, now is that he's vain and he wants all of this for glory and to feel like he matters, which I'm actually with Happy somewhat. It's like that shouldn't be the reason
A little bit.
that you want to be a hero, is just you just want to matter. It should be a little bit more meaningful than that, and you need to work on that yourself, sort of thing. But I mean, it's just somewhat...
he says, like, you can't be in it. It's not because you need to be on the Avengers. It's because people need you to be on the Avengers, essentially. It's
And then, what does he mean, keep an eye on him?
That... How?
Yeah, he's going to a different universe, my good man.
Wade doesn't say he's from another universe, so it's possible Happy doesn't even know that. And even if Happy did know that, Deadpool can just stay in the universe temporarily to showcase what he can do, and you can still keep an eye on his public activities the same way the general public does with Spider-Man. That doesn't mean they know where he hangs his suit.
And what do you mean shoot for the middle?
Aim for the middle means find a middle ground. If you stop trying, you're aiming too low. If you bite off more than you can chew, you're aiming too high. In more literal terms, be your own hero as Deadpool, and they'll evaluate your fitness to be an Avenger from there. It's that simple. They literally do this with Spider-Man, so I don't know why you're so confused.
Also, like, I mean, if he's already explained all of his accomplishments, surely you should be very impressed already.
Happy didn't let him on because he said he needs to be an Avenger, not because the people need him. That's very blatant in the film. Character matters.
Well, who the fuck do you have to be to get into the Avengers exactly?
Well,
if he just gets turned away instantly.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
Well, he's going to get turned away, but all of the cringe people that have been introduced in Phase 4 and 5, they're going to be part of the Avengers when they have not accomplished as much as he has.
Motivation matters. How it reflects on your character matters. Why are you questioning the idea that the Avengers have standards for who they hire? What? Because some other Avengers are cringe and you don't like that?
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
And also, wouldn't it be weird as well? It's like, wait, so you're a mutant? What's that?
What even is this point? Deadpool doesn't have to say the word mutant to explain that he has superpowers, which many of the MCU heroes have as well. And even if he did, all he'd have to explain is that it's a term for people born with unique abilities.
There's a lot of questions that are worth asking.
He mentioned the X-Men. Probably... That's not even in 616 yet, or like, Sacred Timeline. You should be like, what? Yeah.
X-Men, what?
Deadpool doesn't say X-Men, he says X-Force, which Happy would assume is another combat team since that's what Wade specializes in.
It's insane, and the second he actually understands anything meaningful about anything Deadpool's talking about, he'd be like, okay, I need to call people, I need to call everyone right now.
Call everyone for what? An interview they already did a background check for? You really want Happy to go Avengers Assemble for an interview? Why?
This is going to be the first hour. It's going to be awkward, alright, chat, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So, for example, you guys are overthinking it. They died on the mission, he went back in time and saved them after the mission. No, the line I'm giving you is from the first scene in this film in continuity. He said they died, but they're not dead.
Yeah, they're alive.
So
if you're
going for a job interview, you're probably not going to describe it as an event. Like, why would you describe it as before the retcon?
From Deadpool's perspective, his failure as the team leader still happened because he still retained the memory of the event. So when he's running through the experiences on the spot and is talking out loud, that's going to come to mind. Now, you could say he should clarify what happened as far as him going back in time to save their lives, but Deadpool gets even more nervous as Happy is writing and thinks the mere fact he made a mistake to begin with is a turnoff. So in panic, he cuts to the chase about wanting to be an Avenger before he can be written off, and Happy focuses the subject on why he wants to become an Avenger. If the subject has shifted by this point, and Wade thinks he's being given a chance, then his next focus will be on his motivation. If the loss of the X-Force was the crux for his rejection, which it wasn't, he could clarify this the moment Happy brings it up and explains the rejection and even further prove to him that they are still alive and living today. But that wasn't the reason he was rejected, so that's not his focus at the end.
Deadpool 2 began with him making clear to the audience, right, that they wanted to compromise somewhat on the first film in terms of he had a strict goal that was all about Vanessa. So how do we move that on? Deadpool 2 was like, well, I'll go after and kill the worst of the worst that a lot of people won't even consider touching. Like, Avengers will fight a big demon monster cyborg thing that's come from outer space. I'm gonna go kill, like, a mob boss in the middle of some distant country. And you'll do it for money, and it'll satisfying on a level of, like, heroism. It's like, okay, sure, that's like the operation. You get what I'm trying to say. They don't want to make him into Captain America. They always want to stick to the anti-hero aspect and making him a bit rougher around the edges, that sort of thing. And so yeah, the denial of access to the Avengers shoves him all the way back to he becomes a car salesman.
I mean,
Oh man, that
I mean, you can see
getting assassinated real quick, huh?
yeah.
We already thought it was weird he even wanted to join the Avengers. We already thought it was weird out of all the options he had if he wanted to, that he would even choose to do that. And now we're being told that with access to the infinite multiverse, he tried one time with the main Avengers, which he wouldn't even know is the case, by the way. The ones that we know.
Avengers. Yeah.
And then that was it. And he gave up and he stopped being Deadpool. And he stopped being Deadpool
being a hero.
for 6 years.
For 6 years.
6.
Yep, he committed to this. This wasn't some spur of the moment decision. It wasn't a pout. It wasn't an emotional moment. This is something that he did and committed to.
Alright, lots to break down there. First of all, Happy suggests to Wade that he doesn't need to be the world-saving type as a means of helping Wade move past his insecurities of not mattering enough. The point of Wade becoming a car salesman is to show that he's taking that advice of finding purpose elsewhere and moving past the mindset that everything needs to have this grand impact on the world. It's how he tries to be at peace with not being among the best of the best. Wade is told to find his place, and he's trying to do so by living a life with his newfound family. He doesn't need to be Deadpool in order to do that. Being Deadpool is just a reminder of those insecurities and where they come from, and will possibly cause him to feed into them even further as soon as he gets back into the thrill of being a costume superhero. Secondly, another motivator for Wade not being Deadpool is that his concern of not mattering enough affected his relationship with Vanessa. Vanessa notices how Wade is deciding to focus on himself more than others, seemingly because he's going through something that he won't clearly disclose to her. Wade takes this poorly because he thinks Vanessa is implying that he doesn't matter enough, which was what made him insecure to begin with, and what he was actively trying to move past. Right after he listened to Happy's advice and tried to move past a lifestyle that kept provoking his insecurities, Vanessa tells him to go back to being Deadpool, which provokes his insecurities once more. I think that's a pretty fair reason to be frustrated. And because Wade tends to act on impulse when he's frustrated, he wants an admission that Vanessa doesn't want to be with him because he doesn't matter enough, which is how he perceives her in this conversation. Failing to be at peace with himself is what made him drive Vanessa away, and he thinks being Deadpool is what provoked his need to be one of the greats. Stepping away from that lifestyle to focus on his family is what he thinks is healthiest for himself, to move past it. He's wrong, but he has a reason to believe quitting is a viable option for himself.
And of course, you have to mention at this point as well that yes, his girlfriend Vanessa left him.
Yeah,
What?
Vanessa left him. She's got a new job and she's dating someone else.
Wade literally pushed her away. That was his doing.
You just say it. Say, I don't want you. I don't want to be with you. Tell me that and I'll walk away. Say, I don't want you.
You caused it. You did it. You got no one else. You fucking did it.
Why would she leave him? They've gone through so much together. He's Wade Wilson. He's done so much for her. He went back in time to save her life. He sacrificed himself to save a child. And what?
So you're unironically arguing that because Deadpool has done good things before, you can't break up with him for any reason, ever? Man, Civil War is losing points because Pepper split up with Tony despite all he's done for the world. Into the Spider-Verse must stink because MJ divorced Peter when he saved the lives of a billion strangers over and over again.
Because...
What are her standards?
Because he stopped being Deadpool. That was enough for her to give up on him.
So he wanted to be an Avenger for her, I guess. But that would mean that when he got rejected from the Avengers, and she would obviously say, well, just be a hero in the ways that you've been being a hero for the last 2 movies. He wouldn't accept that and stopped being a hero entirely. So she left him as a result of that.
She literally stood by him and said she wants to go through it with him. And Wade takes this poorly and ends up pushing her away by his own doing. What movie did you watch?
And even at one point says, like, I'm standing in a room with every single person I love. As if to just annoy me. Because, like, thanks for that line.
It's all of them, yeah.
It's everybody.
This adds on to an earlier point I made, but I have to agree with this. If Deadpool is explicitly stating that these are all the people in his life that he loves, then I think you should at least address what happened with Cable, Russell, and Domino. I can accept that Cable would eventually go back to his family, but how do you explain Russell or Domino? If there was something life-changing for them or their current circumstances don't allow for them to be present, then I feel like it should be addressed somewhere. I can even believe that Wade's inability to deal with his issues may have caused rifts in some of his other friendships, but again, I feel like we're missing an important chapter here that addresses this. The fact we even have to speculate what happened is a problem in itself in my eyes, and while it's possible that this is being saved for a more Deadpool-centric movie, as I mentioned earlier, I'd still like for there to be some kind of acknowledgement and explanation.
Wade wakes up in the TVA. They tell him what the place is, what it does, and that his universe is in trouble, or rather, what they start with is that he's being moved to the Sacred Timeline because he's needed for an important future event. And he's very excited about that because, remember, that's what he wanted. He told Happy
he wants
that
to
was
matter.
Like his one thing, yeah. And so Mr. Paradox, is who he's talking to, says, you'll finally get what you want. You'll finally be able to matter. He's like, oh my god, this is exciting, 100%, I'm on board. Where do I sign? Let me get my costume. And they suit him up. They give him adamantium blades. And he's the Deadpool you know and love. And then they tell him he can't commute because there's going to be no universe for him to go back to. The universe with all of his loved ones is going to be obliterated very soon. Because Mr. Paradox has been tasked by the TVA to oversee the destruction of what we're going to call the Fox timeline, because it's going to get way too complicated if I use the numbers. The Fox timeline is dying because Logan died in Logan, and it was such an epic and monumental emotional sacrifice that to lose him is to lose an anchor being, and without an anchor being, a universe inevitably dies. And so if the Fox universe is going to die anyway, they want Mr. Paradox to oversee it, and they want him to take Deadpool from the Fox universe, move him into the Sacred Timeline, and oversee the destruction of the Fox one. And Mr. Paradox wants to prove that the TVA were wrong in that they've established this new set of rules where they want to allow timelines to slowly fizzle out. He thinks you should cut them off immediately, mercy kill them. And that they've stopped doing it, but that he's going to find a way to do it with a new technology called a Time Ripper. And yes, that's what he tells Deadpool to accept to get into the new timeline.
Well, and that the Time Ripper is a ticking clock.
Yes, the Time Ripper needs
it
has
to wind up. It doesn't just do it instantly.
Does he say 72 hours in that?
Yeah, 72
scene?
hours. So
72
3
hours.
days.
By the way,
why does the printing device that just did it instantly?
Well,
why does
we
the
got
TVA
so much.
Need to wait for a...
Just wait your turn.
Why does the TVA need to wait for something to wind up when they have...
Continue if there's more that you needed to say.
Oh, well, so the end of the scene is Deadpool obviously recognizing the stakes and then saying, well, I'm going to steal your time-traveling device, I'm going to punch you in the face, and I'm going to leave to find a Wolverine to replace that anchor being to prevent the destruction of my timeline. There'll be more to discuss in terms of the nonsense, but we'll probably stop there and just look at what's happened up to that point.
Okay, so I would say, first of all, anchor beings, what the fuck? What?
It's like a canon event.
Oh, yes.
It's a really bad idea is what it is. So you have now made it to where there is one person in every universe who is so important that when they die, their universe ends. And that this, in this case, is tied to Wolverine, which means that his sacrifice at the end of Logan ensures the destruction of his timeline.
Yeah, that entire cosmos is now gone.
And like, why? Why is that the way it works?
I was extremely patient and played this entire clip to hear what the problem is. And all I got was, well, why does the universe work the way that it does? You do realize you're just asking existential questions at that point, right? You're not pointing out an actual contradiction in the story, you're just asking why things work the way that they do. I'll link this in the description, but someone literally tried this same line of reasoning with canon events, and it spawned a similar yet hilarious debate on existential questions. So check that out if you'd like.
I don't know why they make these things up. Why?
How do they anchor the universe before they're born? Oh wait, the MCU has shown us that the timeline is like like a whole bunch of time exists before and after, right? Like it's like a line that you can jump to at different points, including before and after the anchor being existed.
The explanation is pretty simple. From the TVA's perspective, the events would have to be built around the destiny of Wolverine being born. As long as the timeline is still on the path to Wolverine's existence, they should be fine. He is still destined to show up eventually, it's just that there's nothing left of him once the story ends, since the universe is built around said story occurring. If you're gonna ask why the universe works the way that it does, then I'm just gonna point back to the why does gravity exist debate.
What does that mean in terms of the timeline's existence? Like, what does it mean that, like, oh, chronologically this person has died now as us time-traveling entities, which means that in an X amount of actual quantifiable time that the universe is going to be destroyed? That sounds stupid.
So it's stupid that time travelers can predict when a universe gets destroyed. Okay.
So
Very
now,
real.
when you are watching Logan, you have to understand, when you are watching Logan, when he dies, he has now set in motion the destruction of that universe and everybody in it.
Which doesn't even
Yep.
feel remotely appropriate.
This gets undone in the movie, and Logan's sacrifice still ended up saving Laura and the rest of the mutants. And Laura literally helps them save said universe in the movie and the multiverse. What do you mean it's inappropriate?
They have access to the full timeline. If you're telling me that his sacrifice being so meaningful destroys the timeline and kills everybody, which for the record, Loki Season 2 establishes they do not like people's timelines getting destroyed because it represents the deaths of infinite people or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Then that means that they need to stop him from doing that noble sacrifice, and the timeline will be saved. So they just need to go in and probably zap, evil Logan from the end of Logan, and then you can just leave. You won't have to do a noble sacrifice, and you can carry on with the kid.
Yeah, you
Everything
won't
will be
have
fine.
to die.
Everyone lives.
Paradox was tasked with looking over Deadpool's universe. He doesn't want to fulfill the task of saving Logan's universe. And you do realize that Logan was already dying in this movie, right? The adamantium poisoning took a toll on his healing abilities, which is why he lost his immortality. He's already close to death. So from Paradox's perspective, saving Logan wouldn't mean anything in the long run. He has no reason to waste agents and resources on this, especially when he wants to create the Time Ripper anyway.
They didn't want Deadpool to obviously steal a tempad and start fucking with the timelines. That's not something they wanted. But they did want to pluck him from the Fox universe and put him into the Sacred Timeline because the higher-ups have deemed that he will be important in the future. Now remember, they have access to the full timeline. So I don't know why they wouldn't know what role he's supposed to play.
They literally do. Why is Thor crying?
If they don't want him to steal a temp pad, they can just go back before he steals it and know to stop him from doing that.
The TVA is basically its own dimension, and time works differently there. You can't just go back in time through technical means before the agents were sent to grab Deadpool and bring him into the TVA. If he steals the tempad, you can't reverse that.
What would the TVA do if, like, they needed to prune Jean because she decided to, like, make a different choice at some point in time?
There's that.
What would that accomplish? If Jean made a choice that simply made a new timeline, they'd just allow the timeline to continue, because otherwise they'd have to wipe out trillions of lives. That's why the TVA doesn't prune timelines anymore, which you mentioned earlier as to why they should have prevented Logan's death.
There's also the rules of Endgame that apply to the MCU, which obviously didn't fucking apply to the Fox universe's time travel, but now they have to coexist, which is impossible.
The moment you realize that more than one method of time travel exists, you realize how this point fails. The Time Stone is capable of creating a form of time travel or time manipulation. Wong even mentions that it's capable of causing time loops and paradoxes.
What did the book say about the dangers of performing that ritual?
Temporal manipulations can create branches in time. Facial paradoxes, time loops!
You weren't manipulating the space-time continuum, you were breaking it.
Hulk's explanation is specific to the method of using the quantum realm to travel through time, not the use of an Infinity Stone. Different methods have different rules.
His job is he's been hired to oversee the gradual destruction of a timeline which can take as much as 1,000 years. Now he says that as though you would have to watch it all. So I guess he's immortal, as are all the people in the TVA. I think there was something about that in
I assume
Loki.
they're immortal.
Yeah. And so he's like, why would I want to do that? Boring. I'll just kill the universe myself, which is something we used to do. He says that. They used to do it, which is true. In Loki Season 1, they would put a little time grenade down. It would wipe out the whole universe that's come off from the Sacred Timeline. It just kills it all.
Yep.
It's very
Destroys
efficient.
the whole timeline.
But of
Everyone
course,
in it.
Loki Season 2, they were like, no, that's inhumane. We're not going to do that anymore. So we assume then that it's not necessarily anything other than the fact that it's a moral decision within the organization. And they've told him it is his district to look after the end of the Fox universe. And he's decided he's going to impress the higher-ups by ending it faster than they expected. Already, like, I've not even scratched the surface of this character. That's already nonsense. They told you to do the thing because they believe it's the right thing to do, not because they don't know a more efficient way.
Except efficiency is the basis for Paradox's argument for why this one is more moral. There's less suffering as the timeline withers away. He sees it as a compassionate ending.
We know that there is a more efficient way. It's what we saw in
exactly.
fucking
And
Loki.
they specifically didn't want that.
Instantly.
He knows that. He's aware. He references it, and then he's like, "I'm going to get my Time Ripper," which for all
it way quicker.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, his Time Ripper is just a less efficient time grenade that they had before.
He doesn't have access to the time grenade if they literally got rid of it. So obviously, he's gonna have to come up with an alternate creation to illustrate the concept of immediately ending a universe. And furthermore, you do realize that the time grenade isn't instantaneous, right? If you watch Loki, you'll see it very slowly expands as opposed to wiping out everything straight away. How Paradox describes the Time Ripper implies that the timeline gets erased before you can even respond to a sentence, so that's more efficient than the time grenade.
But so what do you think they're going to say to you when you delete it quicker? They'll be like, oh, that's not what we told you to do.
And Paradox would explain why he thinks it's better for the TVA. He'll argue that it's more merciful and efficient than watching the universe decay for thousands of years. And while there is a chance that it can fail, I don't know what else you want Paradox to do by that point. We've established that he wants to change the TVA, and he thinks that his life would be wasted if he were to commit to the TVA's orders. So from his perspective, that doesn't feel much different than him being locked in a cell for his crimes. In fact, that's what his day-to-day feels like to him anyway. So if he even thinks there's a slight chance of changing the TVA's viewpoint, and therefore being considered a pivotal figure within the organization, he'd rather take the gamble than sit around for thousands of years achieving nothing. Stuff like this motivates gambling.
So like I said, that's his core motivation. It's already completely fucked, because the second they find out that he's done any of this, he is doomed. And it seems as though they actually reference the fact that he seems to be aware of that. His whole team are aware that what they're doing is not sanctioned. And for some reason they think that if they complete the job, that would get them a promotion, when all it's going to do is have the result it has at the end of the film, which is that they get reprimanded and then told that what they did was wrong and possibly go to jail.
So your sole argument for why his motivation is bad is that he could end up in jail if they don't accept what he's done, despite the fact he already sees his life as a waste if he commits to what the TVA is doing. Paradox can either choose to live out a life he sees as wasteful, or take a gamble at changing the TVA and becoming a pivotal figure, which the consequence of failure would be a wasted life anyway. I think it's pretty fair for him to go with the latter. This feels like if you were to criticize Zemo's plan because of the many ways it could fail and bring him to prison, despite the fact he sees no point in living anyway and plans to shoot himself if the plan works. Except criticizing his character this way completely misses the point.
I don't even know how to...
crime.
like, what else is there to say?
What else is there to say? Give me a better plan. Give me a plan that Paradox should have come up with if he wanted to change how the TVA operates and boost his power within the organization. If you can give me that alongside definitive reasons he'd come up with it, I'd accept there's a flaw here, but you haven't done this to any capacity.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't stop there, right? So Paradox's logic is to conduct the mission better than they could have imagined, and he's just going to get fucked over for that. But one part of the mission is to move Deadpool from one universe to the other. Why would part of that be to explain to Deadpool that his whole universe filled with everyone he loves is going to die, and why would you think that would work?
Because he wants to force Deadpool into accepting his purpose in the sacred timeline. If Deadpool has to choose between dying with his world or joining the sacred timeline, Paradox believes Deadpool will join the sacred timeline because he at least gets something out of that outcome. Now, I know you're about to bring up the risk of Deadpool retaliating, and I do agree he should have accounted for that by upping security for himself. If he had better security, there wouldn't be a problem with Deadpool knowing his plan.
Well, hell, what would happen
Maybe.
if Deadpool just took a sword and chopped off Paradox's head?
That's a great question.
Which is what should have happened, by the way.
Yes.
That would be...
I agree that Paradox needed better security measures, but why would Deadpool kill off Paradox? He has crucial information as to how this all works. Why would Deadpool get rid of that when he could be of use to him?
because obviously he's stolen the TemPad, which is a disaster, by the way, for the TVA to have a rogue element who despises the organization, is fully aware of them, with access to a TemPad.
You think you need to log in to one of those with like a password or something?
The thing is, we know Sylvie just took one.
If Paradox was already logged in, then his TemPad would still be accessible if you stole it off his hands.
Yeah,
well, to be honest, Rex, you'd think they'd be able to recall them, like wherever they've just been taken. Fuck it, they can be recalled because they're too important.
It boops out of existence.
Yeah, or if it's not held by someone with a TVA or someone, it just breaks, or it fizzles out, or it just turns off, or something.
The TVA could very easily have a protocol like this to shut off a TemPad, but you likely need to alert the higher-ups to do this, which is good for keeping tabs on their resources. Paradox doesn't have that option if he wants to keep this operation on the down low.
There's a weird part before he goes, by the way, where Mr. Paradox is talking about the anchor beings, and Wade thinks he's the anchor being, and he says, "Oh my god, is it me?" And Paradox like laughs him out of the room, so to speak. Right? He's like, it's so hilarious, the notion that Deadpool could ever be the anchor being. There's such a weird reaction considering he just told him he's so important that he's going to save the sacred timeline.
Yes, he's going to do that. He hasn't done that yet. Paradox even says in that scene that Deadpool can finally matter. He's laughing at the notion Deadpool is the anchor being because of how much Logan and the X-Men have done as a whole compared to Deadpool.
Also, from what we understand about anchor beings, they don't have to do something very, very important.
No.
Like, purposefully. They just have to be the anchor being.
I mean, I'm not trying to undermine Logan at all. He saved some kids. It was incredibly noble, and I very much enjoy how they did the scene, but he didn't save the multiverse, you know what I mean? He didn't save the universe. He didn't save a burning building filled with like 1,000 people or whatever the fuck. He saved the kids, and you'd think in the grand scheme of things...
Are you forgetting Days of Future Past, where he saved the entire mutant race? And in saving the kids, by extension, he saved the entire mutant race?
I mean, judging from the events of the fucking Fox universe, there should probably be a lot of anchor beings, you know?
The rule doesn't state there's more than one anchor being.
I mean, Charles.
Yeah.
Logan has lived longer, fought many wars needed to protect the world, and was instrumental in saving the mutant race on 2 major occasions.
Like, I don't know how it's determined, but it's alright then.
An anchor being comes down to a select being of high importance. The rule is pretty straightforward.
Well, it implies that the cosmos has a will of its own, like that exists even beyond the TVA.
Yeah, anchor being, it's kind of like, it's like the canon events in Spider-Man.
Well,
like,
it's like
what is it about?
Ordained by God or something. Like,
yeah, why is it that these events are this one individual?
Asking why a universe works the way that it does is, again, asking existential questions. Why does Hammerspace exist? Why is Spider-Sense precognitive? Why can spider people detect each other? Why can Patrick Star talk underwater? Asking why rules exist isn't compelling. You need to point out actual contradictions if you believe in internal consistency.
Is just that important? Is there something in their atoms? Is there something in their molecular structure that binds a universe? Like, why? How come the universe doesn't just carry on? Like, the laws of physics exist, and all this stuff is just normal. Why? Why
indeed?
Why does gravity exist? Why do stars exist? Where did the first human come from? Why is Earth conditioned for human life? Why does the law of conservation of momentum exist? Why can nothing be faster than the speed of light?
But this is all the rules that they assigned the TVA to make work. And now, remember, incursions, we mentioned them a couple of times. That's another thing that got established in MOM, but it's been completely ignored here. You can't move Deadpool into the sacred timeline. You can't do that.
No, because his existence there will destroy that timeline.
Let's go back to what Reed Richards actually said about incursions.
The larger the footprint you leave behind, the greater the risk of an incursion.
He doesn't say that an incursion takes place every time you interact with other universes. He says there's a risk of it. He doesn't even have exact numbers to work with. He's working off incomplete information. His sole basis comes from what happened with his universe's Doctor Strange, and he literally says that much of the details weren't disclosed to him.
You never told us the details of what had happened, only that you had inadvertently triggered an incursion.
Reed was never working off complete information to begin with. All he knows is that Strange's meddling with the multiverse caused an incursion. It could have been far bigger of an impact than bringing Deadpool into the sacred timeline, which, for all we know, is for a greater purpose anyway. Like saving the reality.
Deadpool first chooses to go to the gravesite of Logan because his logic is Logan is a regenerative mutant. Like he doesn't die, he regenerates. This is the opening like thing of the movie. It's like Deadpool's so stupid he thinks that Logan was just lying in his grave for years.
Or Deadpool went to Logan's grave days after he died to see if he actually healed from the damages by then. Why exactly is it unreasonable that Deadpool doesn't fully trust the TVA? Isn't one of the main criticisms of Loki is that he trusts the TVA on what happens in his life? It's a valid criticism, but it operates on a line of reasoning that can account for your criticism for this movie. If Deadpool is told Wolverine dies, and all he sees is that he's getting stabbed, then how is he supposed to interpret that? Why can't he call bullshit on the TVA claiming that's the end of him?
But also remember, because the Tempad is a time and space traveling machine, that means he has traveled forward in the continuity of his world to 2029.
Right. Fucking hell.
Or sometime after that, because if he just went back to his timeline, Wolverine would be there.
Wolverine would be alive.
Okay, so
shit, you're right.
That doesn't change what Paradox was planning to do as a result of his death.
If you're gonna move to a preferred time, why wouldn't you move to before he died?
Yeah, why wouldn't you go to the 2000s, like when it was the Prime X-Men team?
You do realize that's over 20 years ago? How would he evade the circumstances that led to Logan's death if he doesn't even know them? Don't you think it's useful to go check his grave to see if the TVA was even feeding him the truth about Logan? If the TVA is lying, then they're killing off his universe for no reason, which would give him full justification to go guns blazing against their whole organization. If the TVA is telling the truth, then he knows he has to work with the TVA to some capacity, which he does in the film by trying to find a fix to the anchor being problem.
And it's just like, what? Do you actually think that he's not dead? Are you a fucking idiot?
Do you actually think you won't die saving Asgard? What a fucking idiot. Oh, wait.
And Deadpool definitely doesn't care about anything other than collecting a living anchor being Logan. So he should obviously go to when he is alive from the Fox universe and then bring him back and be like, there you go. Which, by the way, would be more interesting because I don't know what Paradox would say to that.
Wait, you just offered up one of the worst choices ever. If Logan dying is enough to begin the destruction of Deadpool's universe, then for all Deadpool knows, it's possible for a similar event to take place if Logan is literally taken out of the timeline in an instant.
Yeah, what if I pull out the anchor?
If he said, you can't do that, now you'll undo his sacrifice or whatever, it's like...
No, you can't do that because you've literally removed his existence from the timeline for a solid 20 years, only for him to possibly run into the same circumstances that caused his death anyway. And Paradox would know of the adamantium poisoning. What if this prevents Logan from being a key contributor in saving the world, which Deadpool knows can happen because of Logan's reputation of how great of a hero he was?
Yeah, and save everyone.
And save the universe, yeah. Which means, by the way, you don't have to sit around waiting for him. He should want that.
Not only should he want that,
not
only should Paradox want that, not only should the TVA want that, it's something that, like Logan died to save those kids. Like, the kids are gonna die if Logan saves them.
The film literally says they have thousands of years.
Upon discovering the corpse, all he needs to do is rewind on the Tempad, even 1 year, and he'd probably be fine.
Deadpool would have to figure out how to save Logan and what the circumstances of his death even were. This would take time and countless variables he doesn't have access to. For all he knows, such circumstances could kill him if it killed a regenerative healer, which directly prevents Deadpool from saving his family. Cable even says that Deadpool is very much dead in the future.
50 years from now, you're very dead.
So that adds credence to the idea that more ways of killing people like Deadpool and Wolverine are being discovered. So drawing himself closer to that conflict is a pretty large risk to his ability to save his family, especially if he's on a time limit and has quicker and direct alternatives at his disposal. And finding a variant could be an easy way to buy his universe time so that he could save his Logan after securing the universe.
That's probably something to mention as well. Now when you watch Logan and you watch the ending of that film, which is really great, and you see the long shot on the grave having had the cross turned into an X.
With the X on
now
it.
in canon, in continuity, when you watch that film, Deadpool goes there and digs that grave up.
Which is within his character and doesn't reverse any of the payoffs in Logan.
And everyone in that universe is going to die.
Mm-hmm.
You're acting as if Logan's sacrifice is made meaningless when the film states that the world would end in thousands of years. Laura and her friends still get to live a full life. By that logic, preserving our lives is useless because the sun is going to explode in something billion years. Acting like Logan's sacrifice is negated because the universe will end one day anyway is literally Omni-Man logic.
Now or in 50 years when he's old, what difference does it make?
What difference? He'd have a life!
Also, the TVA are hyper retarded in this sequence. All they need to do is open a portal below him to capture him.
Can the TVA do that? Is there any scene in Loki or this movie that proves the TVA can open a portal under Deadpool while he's far away from them? From every scene I remember of them using the tempad, the portal is relatively close to them. I'm not saying they're lying, but it'd be helpful if they gave a direct example to support what they're saying should have happened.
Yeah.
I've seen that there was discourse on Twitter where people were saying people liked the Deadpool dancing, but they didn't like the She-Hulk dancing. That's hypocritical. That is fucking hilarious that was something that someone felt compelled to say.
I'm playing this clip to highlight a W for EFAP.
Oh, well, yeah, the Deadpool scene's way worse.
What? I meant like the,
Ah, for fuck's sake, you were doing so well there. Even Fringy was flabbergasted.
Anchor beings are like special or whatever, so grabbing any Logan probably wouldn't do it. This is not a thought Deadpool has, but he's not allowed to because the plot wouldn't let him.
Deadpool's not a space-time expert. I don't know how you expect him to know for sure whether this will work or not. And regardless, it makes sense for him to attempt a quick alternative when his family is on the line and he needs to find a way to save them.
Now, the payoff is supposed to be seeing him short. The confusing part is Deadpool leaves when he sees that he's short.
Probably because he wants someone as close to the original as possible. That's not to say this Wolverine is useless, but height is a clear disadvantage and Deadpool takes him less seriously. From Deadpool's perspective, this guy could be short because of a condition he has, and he wants to grab someone who has a higher chance of ensuring his world gets saved. I know this is a little nitpicky for Deadpool, but we're talking about the fate of his world.
Well, I don't know why the others want to kill him so much, so quickly, so violently.
Well, for starters, many of these Wolverines seem to be untrusting, and they're seeing a guy dressed in assassin gear walking up to them. Pretty good reason already.
In any case, yes, the other Wolverines keep killing Deadpool, and as much as that might be reason enough to try a different Wolverine, did he explain to any of the ones that were killing him that he needs them to save the multiverse?
He tried with the Calverine at the last second and it didn't work. But for those who tried to kill him, if they're so unreasonable from the jump, why would Deadpool trust them to have a rational conversation? And why would Deadpool believe they could replace the Logan he knows from his timeline? That's not what his Logan would do in these situations, and if those other versions are so unreasonable that they tried to kill him, then they're probably not nearly as heroic. The Wolverine he chooses is more reasonable and willing to de-escalate. He doesn't just attack him guns blazing. So that's why Deadpool's selection process does make sense.
Did he never encounter a Wolverine who was just chilling at
Apparently
Xavier's
not.
mansion?
Which is
Like, that probably
strange.
wouldn't have been fighting?
He might have if this Wolverine wasn't good enough. What's the point being made?
Well, what's funny, Rags, is he encounters
That
the
one,
worst
the
of the
infinite
worst
one.
Wolverines who is not willing to immediately kill him. You'd think maybe it would be the other way around.
Interesting.
Those Wolverines didn't let their entire world down. This one did.
The other thing
Yeah,
as well
I-
is the comic reference where he's like crucified on an X. You'd think maybe like he just decides, I'll leave you. But it's like, well, you
Help
could get him
him.
down, and maybe is he not worthwhile? I don't know.
Deadpool doesn't know what he did that got him in this position. For all he knew, this guy could have been in that position because he did something terrible in his world, and Deadpool is in a hurry at the moment.
Wolverine falls to the ground drunk, and Deadpool says, "Here you are, I've got your anchor being." And fucking Paradox goes on a rant about how this is the worst Wolverine. This Wolverine let down his entire world. He's the stuff of legend. Some things are absolutely beyond forgiveness, and what he did is just that. Now, the first
Man.
question you might have, I know Rags had it, was, how do you know which Wolverine this is?
Just to be clear, there is an infinite amount of Wolverines. Literally uncountable.
Probably because this version of Wolverine has a distinct costume that Paradox recognized, and he's often talked about as the worst Wolverine. And even then, the point of Paradox bringing this up is to attack Wade's decision as much as possible, so he gives in to the ultimatum. Even if this is a variant that happened to have that distinct costume, neither of them can disprove what he's saying. If Wolverine disputes his claim, Paradox can just argue that it will happen later on, and Deadpool would have reason to believe this is the case.
Mr. Paradox says about Deadpool as a result of all the things that have just happened, because of course Deadpool just walking back in here and saying I have the anchor being, he needs to be very careful. He's surrounded by people who have the melty devices, and we saw him use one in the opening, so he knows what they do. They'll just disintegrate you. You better be careful, because he's in a room filled with those kinds of people, and he does not know if he has the leverage. Like I said, it was kind of stupid for him to believe this would be leverage, but he's coming in hoping it is. And Mr. Paradox says to him, "My superiors deemed you special in some way, clearly not in a good way. Apparently you have some important future purpose to serve." That's the quote he gives him now. Earlier, he was quoted as saying, about Deadpool, "One could say the entire sacred timeline will be saved from a grisly fate sometime in the future," in relation to Deadpool. Those two lines don't feel like they can coexist.
Paradox says that Deadpool isn't special in a good way because he perceives him as especially stubborn and annoying, so he wants to guilt trip him for it. That's why he brings up the nose break in response to the opportunity he was given.
Like, at first he was telling him he's going to be saving the sacred timeline from, untold horrors, and now he's saying you would clearly saved for, like, something, but probably wasn't good. And then the reason I'm setting this up is because he then goes on to kill him, Mr. Paradox. Do you see what I'm getting at? Like,
yeah,
3 different distinctly incompatible values.
Paradox prunes Deadpool in self-defense. That's not killing him. And it's not like he can't bring him back at any point. He's securing him until he's done with the Time Ripper.
Because Deadpool's retarded, he gets zapped with the melty gun stick. For some reason, he's just not
Paradox.
Very concerned. Yeah, by Paradox of all people. So he was looking right at him.
With it.
This is fair. We've seen Deadpool slice through bullets midair. I don't know why he failed to dodge Paradox's attack. Same for Wolverine, since he can keep up with Deadpool in combat.
Also, the tempad is dropped. I guess everything's zapped with him except
that'd be the way that it works. It zaps your clothes, it zaps your weapons, but not the thing that you're holding in your hand.
Very curious it doesn't work, because it does work on other devices that can get you out of the void. So, we'll get there later.
I assume the TVA would have built those tempads with prune immunity. This is actually smart considering how stupid the TVA is, since this prevents anyone in the void from having these devices.
Why is the void like a place where there's oxygen and shit? Why is it like Earth?
It's the end of the timeline, Fringy. Of course there would be all of those things. I have no fucking idea. I don't know.
Why wouldn't it? So if humanity became extinct in the future for any reason, would oxygen just cease to exist? Why?
Deadpool's on the floor, not knowing exactly what the fuck's going on, and Wolverine stabs him with both claws and lifts him up. Now, one of the thoughts some might have here is like, what? Oh, does Wolverine know he can regen?
Deadpool likely would have mentioned it in passing before arriving at the TVA. We don't see their interactions following Deadpool taking a look at his suit until we see them at the TVA, where Logan's clothes were removed and we see his gauntlets put on, and we see him in his full suit. Logan wasn't fully knocked out, and I assume Deadpool was talking with him as he was removing his clothes and putting his full suit on and walking with him towards the portal. It could be as simple as assuring Logan that he'll be clear of the alcohol soon, and Deadpool knows this since he also has a healing factor.
So then there's this moment where they kind of vaguely explain what's going on, and Wolverine's distinctly uninterested and just starts walking off into the nothing. There's nothing. He has no idea where he is, what this place is, where he's going. He just walks off, and then Deadpool's like, because he says, "I don't care, not my fucking problem," about saving Deadpool's universe. He's like, "Is that what you said about your universe?" And I was so struck by the fact, it's like, Logan, where are you going? You don't even know what this is.
Wolverine finds Deadpool annoying. Wolverine walks away from Deadpool, who he finds annoying. What do you mean, where is he walking to? Away from Deadpool.
Just like, I'm just headed to a place. Because Deadpool knows way more about what just happened, that Logan is just distinctly uninterested. He's like, yeah, I'd rather just wander, I guess.
He literally asked Deadpool where they were and he had no answers. I mean, he could be walking around to explore the area and find more answers.
The fight just eventually ends once Deadpool tells him that if they get back to the TVA, maybe they can save Wolverine's universe. Because he's not entirely clear on what he did with it, but whatever he did do to it is very much something that the TVA could undo, and that's enough, obviously, to convince Wolverine to join up. We got a team, because he's like, hell yes, I would be willing to do that. And I don't say this just so
really...
that...
You think he'd be really hesitant, to team up with Wolverine after the TVA say, oh, he's the worst possible Wolverine?
What choice does Deadpool have? If his family is on the line, he'd want all of the help he can get, and Wolverine needs to make it home too. There's a gain for both of them working together.
He could betray you at the worst possible moment, right?
Yeah.
And he could be his best chance of stopping the end of his universe. Remember, both of them have reasons to get back at the TVA, and Deadpool deliberately makes an educated wish to ensure this.
He flies up, he uses his ability to flamethrow on Pyro, the one person here who it would do nothing to.
Does Johnny Storm know Pyro and what he can exactly do? Can you prove this in the film?
He knows who Pyro is. He knows who Cassandra Nova is.
So we can skip a little ahead to talk about this now. Johnny Storm is a part of a team of people who've been surviving here for a long time. Pyro is Cassandra Nova's lieutenant. Apparently he's like second in line, or at least he has a lot of power to control. They know who these people are. Like, they know who works for her, they know their abilities and what they can do. This comes in later as part of the mechanics of how they're going to defeat her.
Where in the film does this state that they know who Pyro is and what he can do? You can't even get in and out of Cassandra Nova's base alive. Cite a line, give me something to work with.
But yes, I do that respect to the Fox movies of having
so respectful
land on his cock and then like break his back and everything.
I really don't see what the problem is here. Is it inherently disrespectful to make light of a failure or a mistake a character makes? Is it disrespectful to Deadpool for him to get ripped in half by the Juggernaut? What exactly is the standard here?
Well, yes. Wait. Okay, you're over-exaggerating because he's not dead. Like, there's plenty more of Johnny Storm to be in this movie before you can make a judgment on whether or not they respected him.
I know where they're going with this, and I can kind of see where they're coming from as far as his death cutting off any story potential for him and being unceremonious. But at the same time, Johnny isn't a central character, and I'm not even sure he is the same one from the Fantastic Four movies, since I haven't seen them, or if he's just a variant that calls back to when Chris Evans took the role, in the same way we see with Patrick Stewart in Multiverse of Madness. I'm not sure, so I don't hold this as a significant point against the film, even though I can agree he should have been given more respect. I know I'd be annoyed if they did this with a character like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
She stands up, and the ramp in front of her becomes stairs. And Deadpool says, wow, ableism, the woke mob isn't gonna like that. I did cringe a bit with that one.
Yeah, I wonder why.
During the conversation, Deadpool kind of cuts in with how he wants to make sure she understands that Johnny's been making fun of her behind her back, saying all kinds of things. And he starts doing his sort of Deadpool running his mouth, making fun of her directly, but claiming these are all things that Johnny told him about her. And while he's saying them, Johnny's like, whoa, no, I would never, whoa, that's weird, no, I don't even know what those words mean, like, why would I'd never say that, that's horrifying, what? And, during this back and forth, she then pulls off all of Johnny's skin, and he falls into a pile of flesh and bone.
So...
That's
that mega respect to the Fox movies, huh?
Just to be clear.
Also, like, Deadpool, wow, Deadpool, what the fuck?
I mean,
I don't get it. I actually don't get it.
He's like compounding so many moments in a row where I'm just like, what? Why? Why did you do that?
Why did you do that? Why did you murder this guy? Why did you actively continuously try to get this guy killed? What did he ever do? He helped you. Why would you kill him? Why would Deadpool go out of his way to try to get this guy killed like that?
Deadpool wasn't trying to kill Johnny. He was shocked when he saw Johnny die straight away. Johnny literally said you can quote him on this, so Deadpool doesn't see it as a big deal. When Johnny was hesitating, Deadpool interpreted that as Johnny backing down due to a lack of confidence, which is not something Deadpool does when he insults his enemies with the intent of knocking them down a peg, or to show that he's not afraid and resist whatever control they think they have.
I don't understand. What's the difference between this and what they did to Reed in MOM?
If anything, this is because it's. I think what you're meant to take away from the implication is that this is the same one in those movies.
I'm not sure what your reference for this is, because the only thing I can somewhat see besides the same actor is Johnny mentioning Reed Richards. But even then, that's not very specific to those movies. Though, I don't know why you're judging Deadpool and Wolverine off this basis, but defended No Way Home's major inconsistencies with the Raimi and Webb movies by claiming the villains are just variants of them, despite the fact No Way Home has the most definitive references to plot points and character elements in those movies.
He didn't tell Harry, he told the news organizations. It's a workaround.
So there's that. And
it's like, we're not going to kill Paul, per se.
And I mean, you've just brought it up, right? Electro didn't know that Peter was Spider-Man. That was something that Harry in that universe didn't know yet either.
Are we supposed to then
assume being killed.
that these aren't from the places that we know them, specifically the places? They're from alternate versions?
I feel like that's not what we were... I think I was going to think that at first until we saw that Electro was blue and then got converted into like little, normal Electro. I think that was meant to be like, no, these are from, they're from like the other Spider-Man films in canon.
I don't know.
Maybe
why would that be? Because they're going to be close. So if the idea is that they are from universes that are what we saw in those movies, but variations and stuff like that would still carry over, right? It becomes clear, there's a couple of things we're going to talk about, that her motivation is she's very angry about having been sent here when she was super young, much like Sylvie, or at least what they tried to do with Sylvie. It's not exactly clear on why. Maybe she was just too powerful or something, but she's become the leader of this place out of a sort of spite because she's pissed off that her twin brother, being Charles Xavier, didn't save her. And she very bitterly talks to Wolverine and Deadpool about how, hey, it must be nice to have had love from him. You know, I wouldn't know because he didn't save me from here, which is gonna get added to later. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind jumping a little bit just for now. Obviously, Wolverine tells her, had Charles known, he would have saved you, which is meaningful to her in that moment. And I find to just be so embarrassing for a motivation for a villain. He's like, I'm mad you didn't save me from a place you didn't even know I was sent to, and you didn't even know where it was.
And you didn't even know that I existed, period.
And nor do you have the capacity to find out.
Yeah, it's almost like she was envious of the love Charles Xavier gave to everyone except her. She remarks on how nice it must have been to have Charles Xavier show support for Wolverine, because whenever a Charles Xavier is brought over to the Void, he either shows through his actions or reputation that he's this mutant icon that did everything to give mutants a home with a loving family. She never got that, so she'll naturally feel envious of this. This is how some villains take out their frustrations. They find people to blame even when there's indisputable evidence. Evidently by the last response, it seems you didn't understand why Riddler would feel envious of a billionaire orphan when he's an orphan himself, so maybe this one will be easier to understand. Zemo thinks the Avengers just went home after Sokovia and did nothing to help the victims, yet Tony Stark created the Stark Relief Foundation to assist in collateral damage as established in Age of Ultron. They sent ships to fly Sokovians away from the floating city. One of them died to save one kid, and the Avengers had no control of the fact that one of the Ultron bots activated the machine to drop the city, which they destroyed in order to avoid the entire world from being killed. You see how I can be extremely pedantic and say that Zemo's a bad villain because there's proof that counters what he believes? Yeah, we don't do that here.
There's just literally nothing he could have done.
There's literally nothing Bucky could have done when he was under mind control. Why does Tony try to kill him for killing his mom? You see how arguing pedantically like this just misses the point of these characters?
He didn't even know that there was something to do. He didn't even know you existed.
No, but you see, that's why she's a villain, because she's a fool.
Villains having the wrong opinions is bad writing.
Even though she's meant to be really intelligent.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
And we know on top of that, by the way, that she kills Charles Xavier's that end up here. So she's so mad about her brother not having come to save her that she kills variants of him that end up here. That seems about right.
Yeah.
And then of course,
in terms of power scaling, that means we have to assume that she is generally more powerful than the average Charles Xavier.
Well, depending on how long she's been doing this, she's more powerful than every single one.
She's the most powerful being. Yeah, because I mean, every single being that could ever have ended up here was defeated by her, which I don't buy for a second that Charles Xavier was beaten by her.
You just complained about a scene where Cassandra Nova ripped off Johnny's skin in an instant, and you're complaining that she's able to beat Charles Xavier. Are you serious?
I don't like...
He's like super old and experienced and you know,
I find
sagacious and he's...
the nerfing of Charles Xavier in a lot of these stories very cringe.
What are you talking about? You don't know these Xaviers. You don't know how powerful they are, which circumstances they were in, or if they were even in a fair fight. Cassandra Nova could have lied about her intentions, caught him off guard, and then killed him immediately. And furthermore, these are literal variants. You have no feats to even prove they were nerfed. These are off-screen variants.
Sir, that's a negative. You're trying to prove a negative.
He's super powerful.
I mean, they did it in Multiverse of Madness. Got beaten by Wanda at the thing that he's the best at, which is mind shit.
You have no proof that Charles Xavier should have been way better than Wanda at what you call mind shit.
They're talking to Cassandra Nova, and she mentions how Charles must have made you guys feel safe. It's a very, like, civil and calm conversation. And then Wolverine responds, and I think this has just got shit editing on it. He goes, "We're mutants. We're never safe." And then the camera cuts closer to him, and he goes, "Ah!" And it's like, what? And he just runs at her with his claws out, and then she forces him into the ground and pushes him far, far away. I was like, what the fuck is going... Wolverine, what are you doing, buddy? Like, you have no idea what the fuck's going on.
You know what happened the last time Wolverine needed to pull information? Oh right, he used his claws to interrogate. And it's not like Wolverine doesn't know what's going on. He knows that Cassandra Nova is their way out of the void, and he knows that she loves it there. He knows how she runs things and that she's addicted to the power she has. What should he have done by this point?
She says that neither of them strike her as the world-saving type. And then there's a pause, and she looks at Deadpool and says, "Ooh, did I hit a nerve?" Which I thought was really odd. It's like Deadpool of all people being offended because of that, and then the film is like, well, yeah, because that's currently his insecurity, right? He wants to matter. I'm just sitting like, fucking hell.
So you give the very obvious character reason why he got offended for a brief moment, and you're still complaining.
Vanessa basically says to him, ever since the Avengers have turned you down, you took a knee and you never got back up. And it's like, right. So she left him?
No, she left after Wade pushed her away. This is blatantly obvious in the film.
And then she says, "You'll never fucking matter." And we discover that that's a line that's being manipulated into his head by Cassandra. Though it's worth mentioning, he says she never says that, and then Cassandra says, "But I bet she thought it." As if to say that that's what Deadpool thought, or rather Wade thought Cassandra felt about him.
Sounds like Cassandra's just being mean.
Well, she is being mean, but simultaneously, it's just like, fucking hell, what did you do to these characters?
That's what insecurities make people think. Wade is paranoid that he isn't good enough for Vanessa.
Why is Cassandra just magically the person who could legitimately get under his skin and make him feel insecure?
Because she literally went inside his head and created an illusion of Vanessa telling him that he will never matter.
Even if you hit on something true with Deadpool, he's not going to let you know.
Really? There's never a time Deadpool can be hit with something true and be emotionally vulnerable, even for a brief moment?
What have you done to me?
What's my name?
Didn't think so.
You fucking idiot. Did you really think there was a cure?
No. No!
You are not judge, jury, or executioner.
Fuck your rules. I fight for what's right.
You said it yourself. I'm not your friend.
What's Juggernaut got that I don't have? Don't you say legs!
Legs!
Still hurts to hear out loud.
Here's a spoiler alert. You're not a fucking hero. You're just an annoying clown dressed up as a sex toy.
You are a criminal, a fugitive, but worst of all, you broke my heart, Wade.
And you know what? Your heart's in the wrong place, big guy.
Now, I understand some of these clips may come across as mild reactions, but EFAP's evidence against Deadpool is that he briefly raised his eyes when he was told he wasn't the world-saving type, and that he got upset when Cassandra Nova manipulated a memory of his and started insulting her as a result. This is terrible evidence of Deadpool being out of character.
That kind of vulnerable is with people he very much hyper-loves, or when he's pushed to an extreme like it with Francis in Deadpool 1.
His mind was literally fed an illusion of something Vanessa didn't say to worsen the experience of the breakup. That's an extreme circumstance, and all he does is refute that she said that and insult Cassandra Nova for it.
Then Wolverine stabs her from behind with all 6 claws. And I don't know about anyone else, but I was just like, wait, what? Where did you come from?
She's gone now.
So you don't think Wolverine can get out of being put into the ground, not even that deep. Alright.
Well, he just traveled through the dirt. He's like Diglett.
Again,
But what about all of the people? What about all of the people who are
They didn't
around
see him. He
who-
was underground.
Why would they care? They know Cassandra Nova can survive this and likes to toy with their enemies. She did this move to begin with knowing he wouldn't die if he got out.
And so, we realize that has no effect on her because she has hyper regeneration, which, man, what a power set. Nice.
Wow,
Obviously,
how did she get that if she's Charles Xavier's twin?
Well, she's a mutant, so I guess grab bag.
I don't know where to start with this one. So you're unironically arguing that Cassandra Nova can't have different powers from someone she's related to. So Quicksilver can no longer be Magneto's son? Pardon my language, Cap, but what the actual fucking shit is this point?
She got that, plus the ability to put her hand in people's heads and read their thoughts.
What are you saying now? You guys are complaining that Cassandra Nova has powers at this point. You're just asking existential questions instead of actually engaging with the film. Why does the spider give Spider-Man powers? Why does Vibranium exist? Why do the Infinity Stones exist? Why does Shrink Tech exist?
They're kind of surprised it doesn't insta-kill her. She does not insta-kill them back. Instead, she says, the big guy needs to eat and the rent is due.
She literally says she doesn't care if they escape.
You two escaping I could live with.
We do find out later that she didn't kill them, according to Pyro, because she wanted to play with them. But that's not true, because she expects Eliath to kill them.
It's almost like she gave them a warning and didn't care if they escaped, since she literally watched them leave and did nothing. It's almost like someone who wants to toy with people doesn't kill them immediately. Yeah, like this situation right here of, maybe they'll survive, maybe they won't. That in itself is toying with them. They sometimes throw them into risky situations as a means of messing with them. And if they succeed, that only leaves more opportunities to torment.
So it felt to me as though when they made this scene, they were like, oh, this is desperate. Can they get out of this? And they give a reason. We'll go over it in a sec. And then later on, they were like, fuck, Cassandra could have easily killed them. How do we explain why she hasn't? And it's like, just say she wants to play with them. That's an easy one. It's like, all right, yeah, we'll throw that in. Feels very,
But how are they going to get out of
jumbled.
this jam, though? You know? How are they going to get out of it?
Well, so, as Eliath is approaching and all the people are panicking, we, of course, realize, there's the, you know, the big, there's like a metal device. It's, you know, you know it. It's this metal device that's just on the ground, and Wolverine kicks it, this metal device, and it turns into like a missile, and it flies away. So all you have to do is stand on it. It's like a rocket, and it'll get you to safety, and Deadpool jumps on with him.
This was actually like, I was actually stunned by this. It was like, wait, what? They're just gone. They just jump on it and fly away, and that's it.
I assume this means that a fart cloud monster just didn't need anyone.
A couple other people, I suppose. They just like fly away. It's insane. They just like jump on a thing that's there and then fly away, and that's it.
Yes, Logan sees a machine, activates it, then uses it to escape. I don't see the problem.
Man, if they didn't bump into Johnny Storm within the first 3 days that they were there, I guess that if they just bumped into nobody, they would have just been screwed.
You're gonna bump into someone eventually. Johnny is clearly active and can literally fly around.
He said the people Johnny was talking about before that poor kid was killed. And Deadpool says, poor kid, he was like 50. It's, I get the joke, right? Because Chris Evans looks a hell of a lot younger than he is. But it's just weird, because like, wait, I thought you would mind having been the reason that a hero was killed.
It's almost like Deadpool uses humor as a coping mechanism when he feels like shit.
Tell you, I deserve that. That too. No. Maybe not the nethers.
Start talking!
And to be honest with you, it's something that would have been worth discussing, but he just never did. Like, the nature of the TVA being able to save his universe, how it would work and what it would mean. Wolverine just was like, yeah, okay. And
yeah, what's the plan? How do we do this?
Yeah.
There's, you know, do you not have that device anymore? So how can they do this? Or the TVA didn't mention this. Or
I feel like you can put 2 and 2 together why Wolverine would believe Deadpool. The Time Variant Authority can navigate the multiverse and their timelines, so it stands to reason that there's a chance they could change what happened to him. And if Wolverine has nothing else to do, why wouldn't he go along with it? It's the best plan he's got.
That is,
X-23, alright.
How'd you get here?
Because she was pruned by the TVA. Just like Deadpool, the TVA saw these heroes as useful assets, but they didn't want to cooperate because they wanted to fight for their worlds instead. leading to them being pruned.
TVA decided our universe was dying, and I never even got a chance to fight for it.
This is a collection of people, according to Elektra, that the TVA knew wouldn't go quietly, so had to be taken out. What?
But I mean, the universe gets destroyed, they get destroyed.
They would have brought them to the TVA to discuss this, which is where they'd learn where the heroes stand, and if they retaliate, it's easier to just prune them.
Yeah, and then, so the problem here becomes, this is a scene a lot of people turned off for, and it is difficult to pay attention because they just start expositing and planning, and they're desperately trying to find a way to get everybody here to do a fight scene. But they haven't got a great reason, because going against Cassandra's suicide. And then Deadpool's like, okay, well, if we get our hands on Magneto's helmet, we can block her psychic power. Which feels...
Say, well, yeah, that doesn't mean anything if she just grabs your skin.
Well, so I was gonna say, right, yeah, they're just wrong when they said that. Cassandra can pull off pieces of your body that aren't your skull or your head. That helmet's not gonna do shit if you just do that. What they don't say here is if they put Magneto's helmet on her, it will neutralize her powers. They say you can block her psychic powers if we get the Magneto's helmet. They say if anyone got their hands on it. So, yeah, what they say doesn't make sense, and it doesn't even reflect what they end up doing.
They say that they will use the helmet to block Cassandra Nova's psychic powers. They do that in the fight. Her power to rip people's skin off still counts as psychic powers. She doesn't physically touch Johnny to pull it off, she just thinks about the action and aims with her hand. It's the same with Wanda when she lifts objects with her mind, that still counts as psychic powers even if she uses hand gestures.
So then they move on to any other helmets that might work, and they figure Juggernauts. So the first question that will come to mind is, why would she have melted down Magneto's helmet in order to prevent anyone from using that against her, but not done that with Juggernauts?
Because Juggernaut is loyal to her. There's established trust. That's like questioning why the Vulture would give Shocker a gauntlet because he could use it to punch Vulture and kill him. It's not unreasonable for villains to trust the people they're working with.
So, we get a very, very important scene that was kind of the one I was like, okay, if they can at least get this right, that would be something. It's Logan sitting at a fire with his alcohol, and X-23 walks up to him. Now, we're not in a great situation here because he's got zero context for who this girl is, so the dialogue here would have to be fucking stellar for this scene to work.
And do we even... Is she the one from Logan?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I think we're supposed to believe that is the case, yes.
Yeah.
And so, her opening gambit is to say, you know, you showed up when it mattered the most. You may not know it, but you're a good man, Logan. I got to grow up because of you. And I was already like, oh, the film's not going to be honest. It's gonna try and skip because it's got no balls. The truth is, she has no idea who this guy is. And that's actually a place I think would be a better start for this scene. She could be like, you might have thought I'd come here and say, oh my god, I love everything about you, you did such a great job. You may have heard from Deadpool that you're some kind of amazing hero and you're feeling pretty down about it in comparison. I can't tell you who you are. I don't even know you. I do know the guy in my world, though, and what he meant to me. And then to explain a lot about that guy, and then to say there is absolutely nothing stopping you from being that person. Something like that. Instead,
something like that.
Much like Multiverse of Madness, she just starts telling him he is going to be that person, and he is that person, because, you know what, it's just a consistent element of Wolverines. They're just...
It's almost like there's more than one way to motivate someone, and Laura wants to take the approach of explaining why this guy reminds her of Logan. She draws parallels to their character flaws to make the point that these flaws don't have to define him. She treats Logan like a hero because she knows he has heroic qualities. He wants to find a way to restore the damage done to his world, and she has reason to believe he is a hero at his core. She even says the suit says otherwise, because it makes it abundantly clear that he was part of the X-Men, a team of superheroes. And on top of this, it's revealed that sometime after their fight, Logan looked at the picture of Wade's family by the car. It shows that he's at least starting to consider why Deadpool may have lied to him.
This is the worst of the worst Wolverines, alright? But it's like, no, but he's still gonna be a good guy. Like, we can't go that far. We can't make him like a bag or anything.
He's stated to be the worst Wolverine because he's the most pathetic, not the most evil.
I was very much interested in the concept of we're not going to ruin Logan's legacy because we're not dealing with Logan. We're not even dealing with the Wolverine you'd expect. We're dealing with someone who went on a really dark path, and he's going to be brought onto a path of saving a universe, which is very much something a villain might want to do anyway. You know, and it can make for a very interesting dynamic, and Deadpool is absolutely someone he can punching bag style have along for a... He's like someone you can't... If he was like a villainous character who wanted to kill everybody around him, Deadpool's one of the most perfect people to have because he can't fucking get rid of him, you know? And they would have to be forced to help each other in certain circumstances. The potential there is enormous. Now, instead, we get told he's the absolute worst, beyond redemption, beyond forgiveness, the worst thing that's ever happened to any world that has a Wolverine. Like, okay, so what is the story? And we get it. He says that when the X-Men asked him to be there, he wasn't, and instead he was drinking. And when he finally came by to, you know, help him out with whatever it is that they were doing, he was too late. The humans had come and killed them all. And so that made him real mad, and he started killing, and he killed bad guys and good guys. That is the story of the worst Wolverines.
I don't believe you.
I mean, I don't even know where to begin. There's so many issues I take with this. One, what a detailless story. It's just like, okie dokie. That's, I guess, a thing that happened. Two, why would you kill... Like, why would that event make you kill good people? Is he talking about, like, he became really hateful of just humans in general and killed a lot of good humans? Because he was so angry? Just doesn't sound like the Wolverine they're trying to build here, which is a good man, you know?
You can bring harm to innocent people in a pursuit of revenge. That's one of the reasons revenge can be so toxic to people. While the focus is on those who have wronged you, anger and vengeance can blind you from the potential damage being done to innocent people. Your favorite MCU movie is Captain America Civil War, where Tony tries to kill an innocent man for something he did under mind control. He attacked Captain America for defending him when Cap is an innocent man. Black Panther does this huge chase with Bucky on the road, which risks people's lives. I don't know why you think seeking revenge and getting innocents hurt in the process means you can't be a good man.
And I guess humans could just go and kill all the X-Men?
You mean like what they did in Days of Future Past?
So that's another element of this story. Was he going to be the one to be able to save them all if they wiped out all of the X-Men?
It doesn't matter if he could or not. The fact of the matter is that he could have tried and they may have succeeded if he did.
Yeah, I don't know, because obviously we get so little of this story that there's not much to be able to work with.
I actually like how much of what Logan did is left to the imagination. It's quite haunting to not know the full details behind the violence. As the audience, we can fill in the blanks and think of really horrifying situations that resulted from Wolverine's angry revenge spree, and we're still given enough to work with to understand why Logan would be so regretful and why he wouldn't consider himself a hero. Innocent people dying should be enough to justify this.
I started to realize something at this point, which I've come to on, you know, rewatching as well. It's, they've cheated. This isn't the worst of the worst Wolverines. He's not even that much different from the Logan Wolverine.
It's almost like the film is proving Paradox wrong. You know, the bad guy in the story.
If you guys remember, Logan Wolverine is kind of an asshole. He treats everybody pretty negatively because he is fucking tired, he's exhausted, he thinks the whole world... He's very like, he's callous to the whole world. He's just trying to make it, and so anytime anyone brings up anything, he's like, ugh, like, shut the fuck up, you do that, don't talk to me about this, or... You're an asshole. You're very, very caustic to anybody who wants to even speak to him. And by the end of the film, he comes through in such a great way that says a lot about him as a person. Right? So what I guess I'm saying is, Logan is an asshole with a heart of gold. That's who you get in Logan. That's definitely who he is in X-Men 1. And it's a lot of the stuff that people really enjoy as the highlights of a character like Wolverine. Even when he's working with the X-Men in the OG trilogy, he's very much it's probably why he became the favorite character. He's always the one that's can wisecrack or bounce off really well. Obviously, he's an amazing actor as well, so that was always helpful. But the Wolverine we've got here is just the Wolverine everyone fucking likes anyway. If you had a choice to watch a Wolverine interact with a world, and one of them was hyper wholesome Wolverine who's nice to everybody and gets along and tries to win the day, versus Wolverine who kind of fucking hates the world and is hyper aggressive and ferocious, I feel like the whole audience is opting for the latter. And that's kind of the guy you get in Logan, because he's pretty fucking ferocious in that film as well. He's considered like the best Logan. in Logan, or rather the best Wolverine. He's the anchor being, right? That's top tier. But really, what's the difference? He felt like he failed in Logan. And what does he do in this film that's so unlike a Logan like that? And it's like, well, you know what? He, in his past, got drunk and he didn't help out the X-Men and they got killed. It's like, okay, but clearly in his story, he would have if he had known that was going to happen. He didn't know.
Logan lost the X-Men before he had the chance to fully accept help from Charles Xavier. He endlessly ridiculed them and tried to distance himself from them. In X-Men 1, he grew to accept their help and considered them family throughout these movies. That's already a major distinction. Furthermore, the Fox Universe's Logan didn't turn the world against the X-Men by getting a bunch of innocent people killed. He's still regarded as a hero.
Whereas the worst Wolverine would have been a villain.
Yeah.
Like, he would have been...
Oh yeah, he would have been evil.
I don't know why they're taking the worst Wolverine so literally, when Paradox was saying that because he views him as the most pathetic. He let his entire world down and is considered a loser. He was always alone.
This scene wants to bring him back, and the way they have to do it is to have him explain his story, and then X-23 says, yeah, but you're like a good guy. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not. And then she's like, yeah, but you are though. And he's like, nope, I'm definitely the wrong guy. And then she's like, well, you were always the wrong guy. And this changes it. At the beginning of the scene, he says he's not interested in helping them. It ain't his fight. Her telling him this was enough to switch him into hero mode. Now,
How bad can you be if the thing that turns you into a good guy is a pep talk from someone you met 2 seconds ago?
You don't even know her. It's not fair.
Yeah. He doesn't know her, but he knows of her. And he's able to relate with her version of Wolverine when she explained to him that they had similar flaws. And the fact that Laura told him that he was always the wrong guy cements the fact both Wolverines can connect to each other through their self-doubt. She's living proof that Wolverine can overcome strong self-doubt and still succeed in the end. It helps him realize that the past shouldn't have to haunt him out of trying again. He can still make things better even after failing.
It doesn't
and of
work.
Course, bearing in mind, like, you know, that this is an old man, you know? He's been alive for like 200 years. He's probably seen and heard a lot of things before. The idea that you could create such radical change in him just from like a conversation like that, come on.
But he becomes regretful of his decision to push the X-Men away after they all die. He was already growing and changing beforehand. His talk with Laura simply gave him the push he needed to fully accept that he can become more than just his failures.
And you had the chance to make a far better scene here. She could have described that, you know what? Everyone's been talking about how much of a fucking hero the one of my world was. No one talks about just how much he had to work to get there. No one talks about how much he kind of treated a lot of people like shit because he thought little of himself. And that was the big issue, you know? Basically explain how there is an easy pathway for this Logan to become a better Logan, because he doesn't believe that's possible, right? Something, but they cut it down.
But you tried to criticize the change in character because he's old and doesn't know Laura. How does your alternative address that? And here's the thing. You talk about how Laura could have discussed what Logan did to reach that status of becoming a hero, and bring up the fact he treated a lot of people like shit because he never thought about himself. She does a variation of that by bringing up how they've treated people like shit, but her version of Logan couldn't help himself when people needed his help. It helps explain to this version of Logan that her version of Logan wasn't this perfect hero either that he's made out to be by Deadpool.
And they have, like, barely anything, and then they just repeat back and forth, basically just, you're good, no I'm not, you're good, no I'm not, you're good though.
You're oversimplifying the scene so it looks bad.
He's not even close to the worst Wolverines. By the end of this film, and by the way, this is the film's fucking opinion, he's no different than the anchor being.
It's almost like the point of the film is to disprove that he's the worst Wolverine.
We open with Pyro and Paradox talking on the phone. This is already just immediately like, what? How is that even possible? Why would that be happening?
I was so ready to just, when we watched this, I was so ready to say something, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever. Sure.
It's
fine. Like, what? Fine.
Thank you for understanding that a phone call isn't a plot hole. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Paradox says to Pyro, are they dead? Because he really wanted Wolverine and Deadpool to be dead.
He literally didn't ask, are they dead? Pyro just gave him the update that they survived.
What?
Elias didn't get them.
Pyro says no, because Cassandra wanted to play with them. Paradox says, we're on the verge of completing the plan. We cannot have anyone getting in the way. You need to go kill Cassandra. And then he says, okay, I'll do it for a price. And Paradox says, okie dokie. This scene is like 40 seconds at maximum, and it's so fucking awful. As if we didn't have enough problems already. They're just piling them on. It is a fact that Cassandra has a deal with the TVA / Mr. Paradox to rule the Void. Why? How? What in the fuck are you talking about?
Cassandra Nova was put in the Void because she's a lunatic wildcard. She doesn't leave the Void because the TVA's deal allows her to maintain control, which feeds into her interest because she loves it in the Void.
How did this come to be this way? I just don't know why in the world they would be okay with it.
Because it keeps Cassandra Nova out of their hair.
To make it worse, we're going to find this out later, she can leave whenever she wants. She has the capacity, the power to do so. She can just leave the Void. And this is something that the people over at the TVA have not prevented in any way, shape, or form. They just tolerate. Now remember, you can drop a portal beneath anybody you want at any time in any way, shape, or form, and you can drop her suddenly into the blended dimension if you wanted to. She will just get mashed the fuck up, and there's nothing she could do about it.
Yeah, or just the empty void of space, or anything you want.
You need to be close to wherever the portal is. You also need to approach Cassandra Nova to begin with. What if she kills you the moment she sees what you're up to? What if she pulls you with her in the vacuum of space or whatever, the second she knows what's happening? She has crazy psychic powers. What if she steals your tempad and retaliates as a result? This is why you don't mess with wildcards and instead mitigate their motivations to cause you any trouble.
Paradox has decided they need to now kill her because she might stop him from doing his plan of pruning the Fox universe. Why would she have any interest in stopping you from doing that?
Wait, so you just supported my earlier point that the TVA would have run the deal with Cassandra Nova so that she has no reason to interfere with them. Which, by the way, the reason it's different this time is that Deadpool and Wolverine have full intentions to stop what Paradox is doing, and they've been found out by other superheroes. Their entire team just grew immensely in power, and now they have the capacity to stop Cassandra Nova and her forces, or even threaten her into giving them a way home, or strike a deal with her. If you kill Cassandra Nova, she can't spill anything that can bring them home. On top of this, if the heroes are busy taking out Cassandra Nova and her forces, that just makes it even easier to get a killing blow on her. They may not want to kill her, but Pyro would in order to get out of the Void.
I have no clue why Paradox is worried about this when they've had to deal with her forever, apparently, and, I mean, technically for all and of not all of time.
They would have been worried about Cassandra Nova, it's just that even bothering her to begin with is a risk, and he chose a time where a team of superheroes, 3 of which can regenerate, have the motivation and capacity to attack her forces and overpower her in a fight to send someone to kill her.
What do you think's gonna happen if you try to kill her and you're not successful?
If he does get rid of her, Deadpool and Wolverine have a potential way to the Time Ripper, which is his #1 goal above all else.
You're gonna send Pyro to kill Cassandra? Pyro? What's he gonna do? She has infinite healing.
Pyro may have been his best choice. How many people are willing to go against Cassandra? And it's not just Pyro that's going to bother with Cassandra Nova. A bunch of superheroes, 3 of which can regenerate, will also be after her. Pyro deliberately chose a time when Cassandra Nova was disadvantaged to kill her.
I was actually bet he's like, I'll do it for a price. It's like, what is your plan, Pyro? And we find out Pyro's plan was just to wait for an opportunity in which he could kill her from someone else.
That's a completely logical decision as opposed to attacking her guns blazing. And even if it was suicide, the guy talks about how she subjected him to slavery. If his best chance to possibly kill her and leave the Void could result in a suicide, he couldn't give any less of a shit.
All the characters get out, and their plan is to distract the Cassandra's forces while Wolverine and Deadpool go and deal with her. Obviously, it's unfortunate, but Cassandra strips them all of their skin and they all die.
She's not taking the fight that seriously. She's sitting and drinking tea while this is happening. Normally her security can handle it, so she relies on them, and she literally tosses Deadpool away and stops Wolverine. Deadpool caught her off guard, and this only works because he had the helmet.
I guess next is they reach Cassandra, and she immediately dispatches Deadpool. She doesn't kill him, she just knocks him around. He's very lucky, because if she had tore him down to the last atom or fired him into the sun or into Eliath, he'd be gone. But she spares him, I guess, because she wants to play with him, TM. I don't really know. It feels more so like the writing protecting him.
You just gave a character motivation not to kill Deadpool, but it doesn't count for some reason. Furthermore, she doesn't think Deadpool can do anything even if he recovers, unless he has the helmet. She has no idea that was their plan or that they'd be capable of stopping her.
I was like, I guess I can understand putting the helmet on her prevents her from using her psychic abilities, but why would it stop her healing abilities?
Yeah, unless we are to assume that it is just a product of her psychic abilities.
There's your answer. She can heal because of her psychic abilities. For a visual comparison that may add clarity, Wanda does something like this with Vision's wound, and her powers are psychic.
Anyway, they've got her, and they say, you've got to send us to back home. We've got you now. And then she says, you fucking morons. I can't send you back unless I have my powers, and if I have my powers, I'm just going to kill you. So you have no leverage. And they're like, oh shit. And so Deadpool says, well, either you do it or we kill you. And then she's like, but I'll just kill you if you take it off. Deadpool's like, fine, I guess we kill you. And he says he's going to break her neck. And then Wolverine's like, no, I'll kill her.
Wolverine isn't trying to kill her. He only claimed he would so he could take more control of the situation.
No, I'll do it. Really no problem. You'll screw it up. Oh, come on!
I guess if you shot her in the head a couple of times, I could buy using it, but...
Right?
Well, no, if he knows her powers are currently off because of the Juggernaut helmet. I get that. But why wouldn't you just envelop her in flames along with Wolverine and Deadpool?
Because he wants to get his final word in, and he thinks Deadpool and Wolverine want to stop her anyway. Why would they be a bother to him if he thinks they're just gonna see this as helping them? They hate Cassandra Nova as well and are willing to kill enemies.
Especially because he can use flames to push people as well, right? And he can use it as like a firewall. There's a lot of things he can do. So I was just thinking, to be efficient, you probably shoot her in the head, maybe in the chest too, and then just light up the whole fucking place.
Why would he kill her straight away when he wants to give his final word?
She doesn't die from that.
So she has enhanced durability.
Wolverine feels bad that she's bleeding out. Bear in mind, he said he was about to kill her, because she wasn't going to agree to the plans with him and Deadpool.
And bear in mind that he has seen her rip the skin off of a bad.
But so he says, you know, we should take the helmet off her, we should actually save her. And then Deadpool's like, fucking, she'll just kill us. And then she agrees, she will kill them. And then Deadpool's like, why would you even say that? And then she's like, I don't know why I am the way that I am. Which is very satisfying in a villain. And so...
Well, when they say, I don't know why I behave in the manner that I do. Yeah.
I don't get why Deadpool would allow this to happen.
Because if she dies, Deadpool can't save his world. They're put in a tough situation under an extremely strict time limit.
I don't get why Wolverine would want it to happen.
Wolverine didn't change his mind. He wasn't planning to kill her just because he said so. He just wanted control of the situation and claimed Deadpool would screw up the kill as an excuse. He tries to appeal to Charles Xavier's love and respects what he would have wanted in this situation. Why would Wolverine not listen to someone he admires when figuring out how to deal with a difficult situation?
I don't know why she's not working harder and smarter to save her own life.
She literally says she can't get them out if she dies. She only says she'll kill them if they take the helmet off as a means of toying with them. She gets enjoyment out of the fact they have to struggle so hard with this decision, but knows that they'll ultimately have to take it off if nothing is offered. Deadpool's world is on the line, so she knows he wouldn't get rid of his only chance in the end.
The stated reason from Wolverine for why he's sparing her is because it's what Charles would want him to do. Which feels really fucking weird when he was just about to execute her about 5 seconds ago.
First of all, he only said he would execute her so he can gain control of the situation. Secondly, even if Wolverine was apparently going to kill her, he straight up says he wanted to kill her in anger. Just because he's tempted to kill her in anger doesn't mean he'll go through with it when remembering what Charles would have wanted. That's such a strange way to look at characters. Wait a minute, Spider-Man said he was going to kill his uncle's killer, but then he spares him because Uncle Ben wouldn't approve? Well, he said he was going to kill him, so that's bad writing.
And also, X-Men kill people.
They totally do.
They did.
The X-Men kill people in the heat of battle. They don't kill people they've already overpowered. That's like comparing Anakin killing Count Dooku to Obi-Wan killing Darth Maul. It's just a complete false equivalence.
What are we talking about?
The thing is, this is kind of a unique scenario of she has been shown to annihilate you guys. She's nothing but motivated to annihilate you guys, and she has said she's going to annihilate you guys.
Billions of people die if Cassandra Nova dies, and showing her mercy because of what Charles would have wanted is their only way of trying to reach her.
She says, it must be nice to have someone love you. And then Wolverine says, if he knew about you, being Charles, he would have torn a hole in the universe to bring you home. I find that so fucking annoying that she would need someone to tell her that. That it's like, by the way, you know you hate your brother for not saving you? Had he known that in any way, shape, or form this was something that needed to happen, he likely would have acted on it. And she's like, maybe you're right.
This is the closest she's ever had to experiencing love from Charles Xavier. That's why Wolverine, speaking from experience with Charles, matters to her. She was forced to actually listen and hear it from one of Charles' students while everything was on the line, as opposed to the other variants of Charles that she constantly killed and never gave a chance.
Maybe I should stop being evil.
Maybe, nah.
That's not her takeaway. She instead decides to let them go out of the respect she'd have for what Wolverine had to say and his choice to spare her. It's not a hindrance to her if they leave.
And then she says, but this is my home. And then Wolverine's like, well, let us at least save his, about Deadpool. So then she says, you know, once upon a time, a magician came in to the old void. I killed him, of course, and wore his skin for several days. But I noted he had a trinket, a fun little device, and she pulls out a sling ring. And this can get them home.
Remember when you had to train to use a sling ring? Now anybody could just use it.
I swear you defended No Way Home for this exact point.
Someone said they hated how Ned was able to open portals without training. He has to try quite a few times, and in Doctor Strange they do establish it's less to do with like some kind of mechanical muscle you're doing. It's more so like, I can't remember what the Ancient One says specifically, but much more about wanting it.
She said you have to let go or something, right?
Yeah, because she puts him in like the Himalayas or some shit, so he has to open the portal to save his own life at that point. So that's how she gets him to do it. It's not like, you know, you're doing a punching bag for 10 weeks and then you can punch better. It's like literally just a matter of your mental state. And Ned really wants to see Peter.
Well, Strange was skeptical, that's why. Where Ned wasn't skeptical at all. Like the magic.
Well, why would he be, you know? He knows Doctor Strange at this point.
Because he already believes he's magical.
Yeah, and he also already,
Someone said you're not actually arguing this point, are you? It's like, rewatch Doctor Strange, bitch. That's how it works. I'm just following the rules.
But here's a pretty big difference. Ned got it down after a few tries and somehow tracked down a Peter Parker that he didn't even know existed. Ned tracked down 2 Spider-Men by just saying their name when they're unfamiliar faces, even though Doctor Strange couldn't do the same to find Vision and Captain America in an instant in Infinity War. Meanwhile, in Deadpool and Wolverine, Cassandra Nova says she had the sling ring for a while. This could be for many years. She could have found interest in practicing the use of it and thus discovered how to use it. That's way more reasonable than what happens with Ned. And even then, she could have looked into the mind of the sorcerer to figure out how to use the sling ring.
They've just established, first of all, that sling rings can get you out of the void. That
means that that means it's a time traveling portal.
Not only is it a time traveling portal, that means any of the sorcerers throughout all of the...
Oh my god!
Yes, there you go.
Yeah!
Okay, open your eyes this time. The sling ring in Deadpool and Wolverine has a red stone on one side and a green one on the other. The sling ring in Doctor Strange does not. These are 2 different sling rings, therefore this isn't the same as the MCU.
Yeah, so I don't even know, how did she manage to get that off Strange? He would have just fucking left.
He probably discovered the place on his own and wanted to learn more about it. In doing so, he crossed paths with Cassandra Nova. Either he walked nearby her base and got killed straight away, or was knocked out, tied up, then brought in to get killed by Cassandra Nova. Very simple scenarios I just came up with.
Well, or are we to believe that she would have beaten Doctor Strange? And if she can beat Doctor Strange, then she is...
Not even fighting him. He arrives, and then he leaves.
Why would he do that if he has interest in exploring what this place is? You don't leave a place you want to learn more about.
Yeah, this also means that she had the capacity to leave the Void at all times. She simply didn't, and apparently this ties into her deal with the TVA. The TVA were comfortable with leaving one of the most powerful mutants in all of time, at the end of time, ruling it with a sling ring and knowledge of the TVA. It's like, no. They would kill it.
Seems like a bad idea. Because, I mean, what if she just decided to go to the TVA? She could just rip all their skin off.
Yep.
None of them could actually take down Cassandra Nova, and it doesn't need to be bothered with anyway if it's clearly established that she loves it in the void. She's no issue to them at all. Why would they draw attention to themselves by trying to kill her?
And honestly, Frank, I don't even know if she has a deal with the TVA or a deal specifically with Paradox.
With Paradox.
And
yeah.
it's like, if she has a deal specifically with him, how have none of the TVA picked up on this?
Private calls exist.
In any case...
But then you're like, well, wait, are they just going to abandon the rest of the team that they got to get eaten by Purple Fart Dragon? The answer is yes.
They're capable of an escape the same way Deadpool and Wolverine were. I'm not saying there's zero risk, but there's still a chance of escaping. If they do not focus on getting into that portal as soon as possible, then billions of people die in Deadpool's universe. That is the priority, unless you're saying the lives of a billion strangers shouldn't matter more than the team. Also, Deadpool brings up the people in the void who helped them.
We couldn't have made it out of the void without some help and people that the world kind of forgot. Is there any way that you could maybe find a way to bring them home?
Pyro wakes up, and she says, "Who put you up to this?" And she goes to put her hands in his head, and he goes, "Whoa, Jesus, just ask sometimes. You don't have to put fingers in people's brains." And then she's like, okay, hands in pockets. Joke didn't fucking land for me because lying is a thing.
Yeah, lying is a thing. That's why she literally puts her hand in his head anyway when entering Deadpool's universe and confronting Paradox. She'd know if he's lying if he was.
Deadpool and Wolverine have arrived now in that one street that they film a lot of this movie on.
Yes.
And Paradox realizes they have, and unfortunately, their entire base is on the subway.
Their entire base is basically outside of Deadpool's apartment.
Yeah.
Why? Why would you set it up next to his house?
Why in the world would this be how it works?
Why would you set it up in the middle of the city instead of somewhere remote?
And you know what's funny? The way to get in is through that hallway, sort of the staircase. If you actually opened up a standard TVA portal in that little hole, it would actually stop them from getting in.
Yeah. Exactly. Just leave it on perpetually and then they can't get in.
Link it to the fucking North Pole. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just like, yeah, you ain't getting in.
First of all, Deadpool was in the TVA or the Void when they were building it. Second of all, as far as the public is concerned, this is just some construction project. The subway is closed down and is under control of Paradox's unit. You're gonna need someone operating that portal nearby, who Deadpool and Wolverine could kill easily. And you're gonna need to set up more than just one of these, since subway stations often have more than one entrance. And Paradox has only found out he had company when he saw Deadpool and Wolverine running to them. And even then, you're gonna draw more attention to the subway if you put some portal there, which defeats the narrative that it's some construction project. And if it's blocking out the entire entry point, one might assume that it's being powered in the subway. What happens if power gets cut in that station and the Time Ripper doesn't work as a result? Yeah, not a great plan. Not even just the Time Ripper, but the TVA's computers as well. That's such a bad idea.
But no, so the reason I said that, of course, is because Paradox sees they're coming, and he needs to stop them because they're going to stop his plan. Now, he's quite powerful. Just with a tempad is enormously powerful. You can do all kinds of things. Again, open a portal at their feet, and they're out. You can put them anywhere. And if you're thinking, you know what, they might resist that, then open it up in space at their feet temporarily, and it'll suck them right in, and oh, that's it, you got them.
You also realize there's a risk of Paradox being sucked in, right?
I don't even want to list the infinite ways he could do something like this. I would rather instead skip to what he does, which is to personally greet them himself and tell them to stop.
Yeah, he's trying to stall them for the time being because attempting to fight them would result in his immediate demise. And staying inside the subway would result in them entering anyway. If he tries to convince them that they're too late anyway, he can easily use this opportunity to get them to join the sacred timeline instead of dying with everyone. It's better to stall him away from his important technology rather than right by it.
Why not just go back to the TVA and then go earlier in the day?
Yep.
And then set plans in place to stop them.
They have the power of time.
That doesn't change what Deadpool and Wolverine would do to escape the void and reach them. What do you want Paradox to come up with to stop them ahead of time?
What does it even mean that they were in the void, and then when what's-her-name opened up a portal, she opened it up concurrent with their real-time time in the void? Why wouldn't she have opened it up to, like, days before? Or hell, what if she opened it up like days or weeks later by accident?
She wants to reach the Paradox who has already tricked her because that gives her access to more information. She also wants to trick Paradox into thinking Pyro is actually providing an update, which requires her to show up after Paradox has ordered Pyro to kill her. If she imagines wanting to show up to Paradox after the same amount of time has passed in the Void since the kill order, then she'll show up there.
Yeah, something they often do.
Why would it open at the exact same time?
Is treated as though we have access to all of time and space at our fingertips, but there is also just a real time, if you know what I mean? Like an actual timer of present time happening, which that's not a thing. There would be no present time. They like to think that there is, though. Because they keep doing the countdown of how close he is to making the Time Ripper, which doesn't really make sense.
Paradox still needs to oversee the creation of the Time Ripper. You can't just skip the 72 hours he needs in Deadpool's universe. Furthermore, time works differently in the TVA as shown in Loki. If you don't think it makes sense, blame Loki. The movie is just abiding by how it already works. Otherwise, we run with the logic of, it's Multiverse of Madness' fault that Doctor Strange thought there was only one way to win in Endgame, despite this being the fault of Infinity War and Endgame's writing.
And she decides, I know, I'll use the Time Ripper to destroy all timelines, except the Void, in which she can now rule without anyone stopping her.
Okay, so, first off, how? Second, why?
If we go with the how first,
can you do this?
As you've highlighted.
How would you have the ability to interface with this machine to delete all of the multiverse except for the Void? Why is that even something
Why is that
you're
something it could do? Yeah. I mean, she sucks all the information out of his head, but why would the Time Ripper be capable of destroying everything?
Where in the film does it state she can't use the Time Ripper to wipe out other timelines? If anything, that helps Paradox's case for why it'd be more efficient if it can do that.
Oh, and why would she be able to even manipulate it? Like, it's a piece of technology that... She's, like, why would that even be possible for her to use it in that way?
Why is it possible to use a piece of technology that Paradox knows how to use?
Goodbye, sir.
But then the other how do you delete all timelines but not delete the Void when the Void, as a concept, is the end of time?
Cassandra Nova isn't an expert on how timelines work, nor has she figured out how to work the machine by this point. She just knows that the Time Ripper can be used to wipe out timelines, and that the Void exists as its own reality. She doesn't know that all timelines lead there, and once she actually accesses the interface that tells her which timelines are which, and what the Void actually is, all she would have to do is spare at least one timeline if that's necessary.
And the end of time.
Not to speak like it's where time doesn't exist. It's the end of all timelines is the Void. It is placed at the end of the timeline. So if you delete the timeline, there is no Void.
Not if you keep one of them.
So it's just like a machine gun of no.
And then why the hell would you do this?
And then why? What in the... She's gonna kill everyone and everything that ever lived. Why?
This reminds me of the time they asked, why did Riddler flood the city? And the answer then is just as obvious as it is now. Simply put, she wants to control everything. She only gets interfered with because of the existence of other timelines, alongside the reality the TVA exists in.
And before Deadpool and Wolverine can do anything to stop her, which, by the way, I'm surprised she didn't strip their skin off, since they're the only people now who can... I mean, I know that wouldn't do... Obviously, just toss them into the sun. That's the way you deal with those two, I guess.
The alternative she went with was sending an army of Deadpools to attack them. From her perspective, that's fine. She also likes to keep things interesting and has sadistic tendencies. So an army of Deadpools literally stopping Deadpool from saving his universe? Yeah, that's pretty twisted.
In any case, she decides instead to summon the Deadpool crew to defend her from potential attacks from people such as Wolverine and Deadpool.
Because I guess all of the Deadpools would want to do that?
I don't know why. It gets highlighted to them that if they do this, they'll all die, and then they're like, yeah, but it's what Cassandra wants.
They don't care if the other timelines die. They get to stay in the Void where they think it's safe.
That's not really substantive, but that is all they fucking did in this whole movie, and we can talk about Logan in respects to that in a moment, but this attitude of, it's all been shit, but, like, if we're supposed to be implying here that this one's different, I think the world currently feels that this one is very much different. This is doing it right. I completely disagree. This is a horrible way to do it. And that's why this comment comes in both insincere in the sense that Marvel don't believe this about their past projects. Marvel don't believe this about the current project this is being said in. Marvel don't believe this about the nature of their future projects. They're spamming the fucking multiverse. They've just made major announcements that all of it is going to be fucking multiverse. And then, fourthly, every other line in this film is fucking pandering. The only reason this exists here is to try and appeal to everyone. The people who like the multiverse are satisfied, the people who think it's shit are satisfied.
Is it possible that you're overthinking a line that's clearly meant to be a joke as opposed to serious commentary?
Deadpool uses Nice Pool as a meat shield and he nearly dies, and then Deadpool finishes him off. There's another person...
Because he can't regenerate.
Yeah, it's another person that Wolverine ranks as Deadpool having murdered, and once again, I just don't feel like this is quite in line with Deadpool.
He thought he'd regenerate. That's a very simple explanation.
Well, yeah, but this is the big shot from the trailer where they walk out slowly to Madonna, and then he puts on his mask, and it doesn't look good.
Goodbye, sir.
I think the mask looks great whenever it's not CG.
Yeah, but it seems like it's CG all the time.
I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
Arguably the fight scene that people cite as just being the fucking balls to the wall, incredible, amazing.
Unfortunately, while it was happening, all I was thinking is, why aren't they regenerating? They're Deadpools. And then they do, later on. It's like, yes, of course. So I was actually honestly distracted by why they weren't getting back up.
So you know they get back up anyway, but still have an issue? They probably went down to give the illusion that they're succeeding so they can fuck them up later. That's pretty in character for Deadpool to do. Even then, some of these people have limbs chopped off, and we know this takes a while to heal back, so...
Well, is there any reason why this Deadpool is so good that he can kick all of the other Deadpool's asses?
No idea.
You have no feats from the other Deadpools to prove that they should be better fighters, and they're not taking this fight seriously. Deadpool and Wolverine are. And furthermore, it's possible for one version of a character to be way more skilled than the other. I don't know why that's so hard to grasp. Tobey's Spider-Man can react faster than Andrew's Spider-Man, who can react to a series of lightning strikes. Tobey's Spider-Man outmatches Tom's Spider-Man in strength.
But that means you still have to deal with the Deadpools. How do you? And you go, Peter. He shows up and they
Peter
just
shows
decide...
up and that disarms them all.
Yep.
They are disarmed by Peter because they love Peter, and there's always a Peter. Good thing he showed up right here. Would have been really bad if he was, like, not around. Otherwise, they actually would have been screwed.
Yeah, good thing the guy who was invested in following up with his friend showed up eventually.
As someone has pointed out, by the way, as well, helping Cassandra means all their Peters die. So why would they help her?
You can bring their Peters to the void.
Well, none of them decide, hey, let's help you take down, what's her name? They just all chill up there.
Because they believe Deadpool and Wolverine can handle it. From their perspective, they just need to fuck up her machine and she fails. And sure, Cassandra Nova could retaliate, but they'd want to keep Peter away from all of that, and if Cassandra Nova starts wreaking havoc on the city, they'd want to secure Peter first.
Paradox explains the only way we can stop her is by having a connection between the matter and antimatter to short-circuit the machine to stop it. And
I guess that makes sense.
First thought you have is, like, you can't just turn the power off, you can't just teleport her out with a temp pad, there's just nothing you can do. It's like, nope.
If she survives, she'll just force him to do it again. You can't kill her by cutting the power or sending her to the void again, even though she has a sling ring that can get her out anyway.
Deadpool says, it's gotta be me, because you didn't ask for this, and I lied. Which I don't really understand. I mean, at this point, there's you know, arguing who should be the one to die here. I have no clue in terms of, are we basing this on... Because the thing is, neither of them or both of them have everything or nothing, depending on what we do with the TVA power at the end of this. We can bring everyone back for both of you, or not. So I don't even know, you know, timelines and stuff. It's kind of a strange conversation.
Deadpool wants to sacrifice himself because he believes he's guilty and wants Wolverine to have a life. If you don't overthink the scene, you'll realize how obvious this is.
Well, and he says, I waited a long time for this, but you're the best Wolverine. Why are you saying that?
Why are you saying that? Like, whoa, it's meta.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, what on your journey got you to say that?
Yeah, I mean, they've really barely gotten to know each other.
Deadpool has seen Wolverine grow. They see each other's development in this movie. This is how they gain respect for each other.
Because the sparing of Cassandra out of his insecurities relating to being an X-Men is what put us in this situation. You understand that, right?
It put them in a situation where they have a chance to save the world as opposed to letting Cassandra die and never getting that chance.
You know what? Everything's happening so fast, it's actually hard to talk about it. Do you remember leader of the TVA lady from Loki's seasons? She's watching this happen.
E15, I think her name is. Even I don't know why she hasn't chosen a name for herself yet.
She doesn't do anything. There's so many things she can do here, but she just does it. She just watches a thing say integrity is going from 100 down to 2, down to 1.
She's monitoring the integrity of the timeline.
That's not at all what she would do, and there's so many things she can do, but whatever.
Okay, so they're not going to be specific here. She literally sends people after Paradox and sees that Deadpool and Wolverine are successfully saving the universe. So they're letting them destroy the Time Ripper and kill Cassandra Nova, since there's no other way to reach this outcome.
What does it mean for the integrity to go from 100 to 1? Is that doing any damage?
I mean, if the integrity of the timeline is depleted by even 1%, is that not catastrophic?
Feels like that's probably doing something.
The timeline integrity boils down to how vulnerable it is. The more Cassandra Nova uses the Time Ripper, the more vulnerable these timelines are.
Yeah, why is it even a thing that you can just chart like this? Like on a loading bar, that it's gonna reverse it.
So you're asking why you can get data on what a machine does to something.
It's so weird that she has to manually operate it. Like, why would it work that way?
Most machines you use require manual input. What are you talking about?
So they had to work very hard to obliterate her, which is so funny because of earlier when he said, we absolutely cannot kill her. That is not what Charles would want.
The fate of every single universe is at stake. That's like comparing Spider-Man letting Aunt May die to Spider-Man letting Uncle Ben die. What is this comparison?
You're always the wrong guy. Until you weren't. Which was
that
really
wasn't in the
fucking weird,
scene.
Man. You
that
were the
wasn't
wrong.
In the original scene.
You were always the wrong guy until you weren't. Was in the trailer, but it wasn't in the scene. But it was in the ending.
She just says you're always the wrong guy. That seems to me like an actual just fuck up.
No, it's revealing to us that there was more to what Laura said to him that motivated him. It makes it more surprising when he does come and help in the end.
And then you cut to the fucking a statement from Mr. Paradox ends up in this collection. He says, "Wade, you can finally matter." And then
it's like, dude, who are you wedging yourself into Deadpool?
Paradox played on Deadpool's insecurity. What he said is being heard again because Deadpool is overcoming that insecurity.
I'm particularly not fond of a lot of the ones we just went through, but the worst, as far as I'm concerned, is they show him looking at Vanessa in the party, and then they have a shot where he's looking at where she was, but she's gone. And I don't know if it's a matter of them airbrushing her out. It looks really awkward. I don't know if that was but the point of it is they tie it in with him saying, "Vanessa, I want to save Vanessa." And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, man. Like, how fucking retarded do you think we are that you need them to repeat lines like that?
You guys literally complained earlier that Vanessa wasn't relevant enough, yet complain when her importance is reinforced during a critical moment.
They survived this, by the way. How?
Yeah. It's two of them.
It doesn't fucking matter. It's not about how strong your fucking healing is or how many people there are. It's antimatter and matter crushing you. It's the kind of power that's supposed to destroy the multiverse.
They survive because 2 regenerative healing bodies are better than 1. It doesn't matter if it has the power to destroy the multiverse. That's not relevant when they're literally short-circuiting it before it reaches the machine and builds up as it's intended to. And the redirecting process makes it so the machine gets destroyed, not the multiverse. The Wolverine can come back from fucking nukes. I think it's pretty reasonable for 2 bodies of his to sustain this in the end.
But she moves on to say, your universe is regenerating. Whatever you did spared your timeline from extinction.
I don't know if the film is forgetting, but right now there are 2 Wolverines in this timeline.
Yep.
Because this is 2024 and Logan takes place in 2029.
Isn't that fucking anchor beings, apparently?
Surely that's going to retcon Logan.
First of all, we don't even know this is permanent. Logan could have just been allowed to visit as a courtesy. Secondly, we don't even know what caused the timeline to be restored. Why are you immediately assuming the reason when this is deliberately being withheld from us? This is similar to how Guardians of the Galaxy hints that there's more to Peter Quill than we know to explain his survival in holding the Power Stone, but with the intention to elaborate in a later project. This gives off the same energy.
Well, and on their way in, Deadpool says, "Found your new anchor being."
So what do you mean you found your new anchor being? He's still alive.
Oh my god. It's obviously an offhand joke from Deadpool. This isn't meant to be picked apart and overthought to hell.
Wow, that's the thing, isn't it? This is what the writers thought was happening, but none of this makes any fucking sense. They think that he needed to make a grand sacrifice like he did in Logan, but he needed to live through it, which this one did, so now there's no destruction of the Fox timeline.
Where are you getting this from? The film leaves it ambiguous as to why the universe was fixed. Why are you assuming anything?
But they don't realize what time this takes place in, first of all, and then he's not even originally from this timeline.
The implication of that is, yeah, fuck you, Logan, for getting impaled on that tree. Should have made
well,
sure
yeah, you
that
shouldn't
didn't
have fucking
happen.
died, loser. Like, that's why...
Yeah.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
And also, there's also two Lauras as well, because you've got her in the past, and then her in the future version.
But again,
incursion. Here they
incursions
come.
are on the way for sure.
Incursions are gonna destroy this universe.
Like I said, it's possible that they're just visiting as a courtesy of the TVA. The end implies they're willing to do this.
She says, by the way, in regards to this, whatever you did, you spared the timeline. So she doesn't even know, and apparently doesn't even fucking care, that he did something that prevents her own orders to allow an entire timeline to be destroyed. A timeline in jeopardy because Logan died, but is now not in jeopardy because you have a new Logan, I presume, who's the hero now, or anchor being, whatever. Is that unprecedented? Have they ever had two anchor beings for one universe? Do they care about what this even means?
Well, maybe they're looking into it because they don't know right now. What else are you asking for?
But I mean, who is the anchor being in the Marvel in the MCU, or isn't there one?
Well, everyone jokes about it being Iron Man, but if it were, then they
What?
would have
And it
said
means that
something,
Iron
right?
Man destroying Thanos is now going to ensure the destruction of the sacred timeline. You can't have it that a heroic sacrifice is actually detrimental to the existence of that universe. That's a terrible idea.
If Tony didn't sacrifice himself, the universe is dead. When an anchor being dies, thousands of years are spared. This is, once again, Omni-Man logic. You're acting like there's no difference between dying in 2023 versus sparing thousands of years.
Now or in 50 years when he's old, what difference does it make?
What difference? He'd have a life.
It's just a terrible idea from a writing standpoint. It completely undermines the sacrifice that, in doing so, it entails the destruction of that world anyway.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
Before the end of that scene, they say, wait, there's some people in the void who helped us. Can you bring them home?
That's the throwaway line, to be like, yeah, can you save Gambit and stuff?
It's like, well, wait. What does that mean? And
what does that mean? That means free the people who tried to help them.
Wait, so you think that the people in the void need to be saved, which, by the way, I'm on board as a concept, and the TVA will listen to you and thus save them? Are they going to save everyone in the void?
Or are they going to continue deleting stuff when they please?
Not everybody in the void is innocent. Deadpool is just drawing attention to those he knows are wrongfully placed there.
I don't even know how to just... What? You can't just grab it? And then, first of all, we thought we were fucking dead, but I guess now they're all not dead, because he said, go grab them.
What do you think it means to grab them?
But ultimately, if the void even has a timeline, time seems to exist there, as in, like, temporal progression. Can you go back before they were deleted and grab them?
Which would affect Deadpool and Wolverine's presence, despite the fact things had to play out this way for them to save the universe.
The other half of that line that's much worse is, I promised my friend here his timeline could be fixed. And she says, wait, change his past, but his past made him who he is. There's nothing to fix. Might be what I think is the worst line in the whole movie. Logan's motivation is entirely based on, in this film, on the hope that he can undo the mistakes he made in his own timeline, because all of his friends and loved ones died. They died because he failed. So if the TVA can undo that, He gets to save them all, and he gets to not live with the pain that he failed them all. Now, the point of view from the writers is something that's been done in other things much better. The idea that the trauma you suffer has made you the person that you are to have, made the decision that you make today, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, the mechanics don't facilitate anything close to anything like that, because you can completely change a timeline and not change a person.
Wolverine's past is why he changed into the person who saved the entire multiverse.
That's first of all, right? So Wolverine can remain the same, and they can fix his timeline, doing the very thing that he wants them to do, because all those people suffered and died. Now, the other thing is, if they said, nope, sorry, it's a rule, if we save all of them, you will no longer be the man you are, which is now a hero, do you really think Logan would refuse? He'd be like, oh, I can't do that. It would kill me. The motherfucker was trying to kill himself.
Yeah.
He lives with the screams of the innocent in his head.
A heroic sacrifice for all of the people who had died.
This character, almost throughout the entire film, has wanted nothing but to undo his failures and to save the innocent that died. And she says, we could do it, but if we did, it would mean you wouldn't be you. So we won't.
Is there any particular reason why Logan becoming the man he is today was crucial to the multiverse's existence?
And he accepts this.
That is correct. He accepts the outcome that saves everyone else instead of serving his own needs. I mean, if Wolverine didn't become the man he is today, and didn't stop Cassandra Nova because of it, his universe dies anyway. So, what then?
This annihilates him. This is the most important choice that could happen in the whole film, and he shrugs it off.
Yeah, so, oh man, Deadpool and Wolverine assassinated? Oh no.
And, they have what felt to me like, I mentioned this earlier, it's like, so you've been busy. I did it for you, even if you didn't want me. And then she touches his hand. What the hell is that?
What happened to their relationship? What
have they done? Like, what?
Their relationship got fixed because Deadpool overcame his insecurities. How are you not getting this?
And he says, turns out, I am the world-saving type. Best part? Sometimes the people we save us right back. What? What?
And we all know how this turned out.
There. All caught up. Look away, kids. You don't want to see this. Not the puppy. Bad Deadpool. This was fun and all, but if I really want to save the landscape of media discourse, revenge killing isn't the answer. Can't be for revenge if it didn't fucking happen. If I could turn back time.
Though I'd want to shelve a conversation for later as to manipulation through cute animals.
See? The earlier the better.
I'm very comfortable with putting the story of Spider-Man PS4 at a generous 1 out of 10.
Whew. That was close. Next thing you know, he was gonna say the spectacular Spider-Man is bad. Can you imagine? Ooh, trust me, I saved you a world of pain.
No, the movie is perfect.
It's not perfect.
It is perfect.
Why is it perfect?
Goodbye. Oh my fucking god, man. He's such an idiot.
You're welcome, Canada. In chaos theory, the butterfly effect is the sensitive dependence on initial conditions in which a small change in one state of a deterministic, nonlinear system can result in large differences in a later state. The term is closely associated with the work of the mathematician and meteorologist Edward Norton Lawrence. I stole that off Wikipedia. Would any of this ever happen if EFAP never existed? Oh, look at you, little one. Long before the long man was ever long. Oh man, I don't think I have the strength to do it. Even I have my limits. Then again, what I do will save media discourse. It's not much of a choice here. If I could just replay. I'm not thinking of killing him, you twisted fucks. I'm thinking of changing the trajectory of how he looks at media at a young age so he has the most base takes known to man when he becomes an adult. Sick, sick people.